This is exactly where you want to be listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
Off and running here with a Wednesday edition of BK and Ferrario. You know that Homer Simpson meme where the grandpa walks in and then he just walks back out?
Yeah,
That's essentially what BK and I are doing for the next 14 days. BK walked out, I walked in. I'll be here until next Tuesday, and then BK will walk back in. But these two, Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns, they're with you all the way through for a new edition of BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. And as you would imagine, with not a whole lot of sports going on, we're going to start with Cardinal spring training. Why? Because tomorrow it officially begins. Tomorrow, that's right.
Like Christmas morning,
that's right.
Isn't it?
Ladies and gentlemen, get excited because that 500 record, it begins tomorrow.
66 wins. Woo-hoo!
It begins tomorrow. Catchers and pitchers report of years. But with it beginning tomorrow, it does present the questions and the topics of position battles, because that's what you typically get in spring training. Now, T-Bone, these are different. 5 home runs or something.
And this isn't like some fake competitions. What the rookie year of Mason Wynn? Well, we don't know who our shortstop's going to be. And I'm going, it's not Brandon Crawford. So.
Jordan Walker, could he hold on to that right field where 8 of those 9 positions are going to be with who's playing where? But it does present the question for both of you guys and our listeners on our Air Comfort Service text line 314 through spring training. Now, careful with all of your picks because there's not a lot of options. But of what the Cardinals have presented to them going into spring training starting tomorrow, where are your eyes going to be focused for the next month and a half?
Mine's going to be the rotation for the next month and a half for spring training, and it's fitting that they are reporting tomorrow because I think there's 3 guys that are really locked into their spots going into the year. I think it is Matthew Liberatore, Michael McGreevy, and then Dustin May. And then I think those other 2 spots are going to be a battle between 2 or 3, depending if they go 6-man to start the year, which I think is very possible. You're looking at Kyle Leahy, you're looking at Richard Fitz, you're looking at Dobbins, and then you're looking at Kyle Leahy or Andre Palante. I'm not sure which one I said first. And then
doesn't matter.
Potentially, like a Quinn Matthews could kind of maybe work his way into that. Right. Odds are very low that he actually shows enough to where they would just bring him up to the big leagues. But he'll at least be someone to keep an eye on, especially for how down a season that he had. I'm fascinated to see what this looks like because they finally are starting to have some pitching depth. Now, I say that. Don't yell at me and go, it's not good pitching depth. I get it. It's not good pitching depth. But at least there's depth, right? So to where if they have someone that goes down to injury, as we're already starting to see across baseball, a bunch of news with pitchers going down, like the Tigers had one of their starters have shoulder surgery yesterday. That's why they signed Justin Verlander. If they have someone go down this year, there won't be a bunch of looking around going, so who starts now?
Yeah.
And that was the problem that they had last year. They had truly 5 starters, 6 when they had Eric Fetty, but 5 starters. This year, they've at least got some options. So I'm intrigued to see how it plays out during spring training. And these guys are going to be competing against each other. This is not a build-up process, right? This isn't like in years past for EC Stars. You know, they're kind of working on stuff and, I'm working on the changeup this year. These guys are going to come out and competing early on from spring training, trying to capture a rotation spot so they're there for opening day.
I'm with you, Tanner. I think the real intrigue is there to be found with respect to the competition, the battles to fill out, to flesh out the back end of that rotation and moving forward. However, that isn't to say we don't have quite a bit of interesting developments as they relate also, I think, to the position player side specifically. I am definitely interested in seeing how it shakes out with respect to that 4th outfielder. We know, of course, that at this point in time, you certainly can't bank on a Lars Nootbaar with the health actually being out there from day one. How long is that absence going to be? How long is it going to take? And in his stead, do you see somebody like a Nathan Church, dare I say even a Joshua Baez getting more opportunities and more reps as the action progresses there in Jupiter? And then also, I'm trying to really plant the seeds here a little bit for what could be, I'm not going to say a controversy, but I don't think by any means, guys, it is as simple, it is as cut and dry as plugging Nolan Gorman in there at the hot corner at third base for 162 games for between 500 and 600 plate appearances and saying that is that. I do believe firmly that with a strong spring, with a strong March into April, and what we saw in a limited sample size last year, that Thomas Saggese could find himself not solely receiving at-bats, receiving opportunities as that all-purpose utility guy, but rather could get quite a bit of the reps at third base. Number one, he's right-handed. You haven't exactly seen Nolan Gorman bashing from both sides of the plate against both left-handers and right-handers on the mound. And I think it's imperative for a Nolan Gorman to be able to get off to a sterling spring. If not, you could see more of Saggese early on, and then we'll see how it plays out when the regular season arrives.
See, that one's fascinating to me with Gorman. Not so much I'm intrigued with it. I think he's going to be plugged in at either second or third base, and the only way he's not is if J.J. Weatherholt's not ready.
Yeah.
I think if Weatherholt's not ready and they say, no, he's going to Memphis, that's where the question really becomes, well, even then, I guess, is where Gorman's going to be plugged in and played.
I would be shocked if Gorman's not
I would
in
too.
the starting lineup just because there's more upside compared to Saggese. When you look at Gorman, Saggese, if he ends up becoming a good player, it's a slap-hitting middle utility infielder slash maybe outfielder. That's where I'm intrigued to see if he gets reps in the outfield.
That's where I think he's going to.
There's not much upside to Saggese. Gorman's got upside. Like, he can be a 30 home run hitter. And, like, is it going to happen? I don't know. It'll probably be in my T-Bone 3 at the beginning of the year.
I hope not T-Bone. I can't believe in it anymore.
You know, if you keep betting red, eventually it'll end up on red.
Or it'll go to black every time.
But I think he's a guy that's probably locked into the starting lineup. Now, is he going to be guaranteed 600 plate appearances?
That's the key.
Maybe not, but that's something that we'll talk about when we get to July.
I think he will, because I think he's got 3 outs. I think you've got second base, I think you've got third base, and I think you got DH. You're going to be, you can't play the outfield, so I think that's where Thomas Saggese gets plugged in to play a little bit more options for you. And again, if J.J. Weatherholt's not with the big leagues, which I'm expecting him to, and he's going to be up here and he's going to be playing regardless, the pitching one I'm not as intrigued by, and it's not anything for what you said, T-Bone, because I agree, like, I'm intrigued of what it looks like. With pitching, though, and especially the Cardinals who are using so many young guys, I'm assuming I'm going to see all of these pieces that are going to be pitching options for you. I'm assuming the starting 5, 2 of those guys by May are going to be in Memphis, and the other 2 are going to be up with the Cardinals, and you're going to see what them look like, because I think they're going to just reshuffle the chairs all season. The position that I'm most intrigued by is left field, because who's playing it? I personally, going into it, I think it's Thomas Saggese. I think they're going to say, look, Saggese, we need you to be Brendan Donovan. Not so much on the offensive side, we just need you to be super utility. Start in left field, give us a month of that until Nootbaar's ready to go, and then we'll start finding spots for you to play. But it also could be free agent signing, because Chaim Bloom is still looking for a right-handed bat. If they get that piece in, or they're just going to put a Nathan Church out there or a Koperniak and say, hey, look, we don't think you got a future here, but for right now, we need somebody to play that position. So in the scheme of things, I don't think it really matters. But in terms of positioning, it's the one spot that I cannot look at and say I know who's playing there in Game 1, and I know who will be playing there when they're healthy on Game 162.
Doesn't Nathan Church, though, almost feel – it would feel superfluous to have him out there in left field if Victor Scott is your guy in center? Yeah, that's for you. That's for you, Alex. I'm testing you early today.
Don't test me like that. I mean, I can't even speak. I've been off for 3 days. I might just blow past it
and go, the bench. Let's talk about the bench.
I know it's a defense-first mentality, but you get what I'm saying, right? You're not going to have –
like I'm a JUCO grad.
This surplus of pop, Tanner. It's defense, and wheels. We love those aspects, but it does feel a little redundant. How about that?
See, why don't you just use words like that here, Bradford?
Right. Seriously.
So the other one that I wanted to bring up.
I don't need the word of the day from your toilet paper.
The only one that I'll bring up that's not superfluous to this conversation. Look at me using that word in the incorrect positioning.
No.
The Athletic had a piece out. Good friend Katie Wu, along with a couple of others, put together their biggest winners and biggest losers of the offseason.
Were we winners?
They should have been winners. They weren't, T-Bone. They were losers. And honestly, they shouldn't have even been winners. They shouldn't have even been a part of this. But let me just read you a piece, because I know you and I have differing opinions on this. It's a grim time to be a Cardinals fan. Ownership's refusal to finish last in the Central. It's a far cry from the standard of baseball dedicated fans have come to expect. Chaim Bloom deserves a credit for accomplishing what he sought to do in his first season as president of baseball operations. He offloaded veteran talent. St. Louis's farm system is on the rise. Even if it won't immediately lead to on-field success, it's not going to be a fun season for Cardinals fans. So I don't look at them as losers this offseason, T-Bone. You, on the other hand, do. So I'll let you take the floor first.
Yeah, I think they are maybe the biggest loser of the offseason. And I say that with the caveat of I've liked the moves that they have done, or the right ones like I do. You are a loser of the offseason because rebuilds suck. And watching a Cardinals team that could be 66-win team based on the Pacoda projections, or Fangraphs, who I think had them at like 73, That's awful for the summertime to watch that for 6 months out of the year. So, yeah, I think they are the biggest losers of the offseason. I agree with the direction that they went, but I would definitely categorize them as that because when you enter into a rebuild, there is no guarantee how long this takes. The Cardinals may be selling this idea of, oh, well, this might be a quick rebuild. We may need just 3 years to really figure this out. That may not be the case. This could be a 5-year rebuild. This could be a rebuild that's phase one of what could be a second rebuild if these position players don't work out. I hate when you go into a rebuild, and I think any time that you do as an organization, it's admitting that things have gone awry for the last couple of years, admitting to your failures, and I think, yes, you are the biggest loser of the offseason. I
agree with what you're saying, like you're the biggest loser, and I think the better way to frame it is you're the biggest loser in Major League Baseball right now because you're going to be the worst team. You have been the biggest loser in the offseason for the last 3 seasons in terms of going out there and spending money on necessary or unnecessary assets that haven't turned into you having success, which has delayed the inevitable of where you're at right now. Going out there and signing Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn and trading for Eric Fetty and acting as if you can make this team a still World Series contender. To me, those were the years that I'd look at and I'd say you're kind of a loser in this sense because you're denying what is pretty, not just traded away Nolan Arenado and Sonny Gray, but got pieces back in return for some of those. I don't care if they're lottery picks. I don't care if they're guys that turn out to be nothing. You shed the salary or some of the salary in the sense of Nolan Arenado, and you got something there. Like you had tasks this offseason that in years past I would have looked at the president of baseball operations and said, nope, not getting done. I would have been pre-mad all offseason saying we're going to go to the season. It's going to be Nolan Arenado at third base, Wilson Contreras at first, and we're going to keep doing this. But instead, Heim went into the offseason and said, we are getting these tasks done. We're making our farm system top 3 in baseball. We're bringing in pieces that get fans excited. And I know now it's going to suck, but 2 years from now, if you do this the right way, man, you could be talking about this thing going faster than what you originally expected. So by no means do I label them a winner this offseason. I don't know if I'd look at them as the biggest loser. I'd look at them as, you know what, you did your job. It sucks, but this is where we're at as Cardinals fans, and I think the last 3 off seasons are why you're in this position right now.
And I think that's the big thing is, like, I honestly don't even know that I don't blame Heim because Heim's not the one that built the roster over the last couple of years. The last, 3 years of what have set this up. I go back and circle the offseason of signing Gibson and Lynn.
Yep.
Because you had money, you had flexibility, and instead of saying, let's go out and get some high upside play, another high upside play with Sonny Gray, they decided we're going to go with innings and veteran leadership, and then they did that with Matt Carpenter as well, to where it just never made sense to me. And it was a very low ceiling team with also a high floor. I never understood that build, but I think anytime you enter into a rebuild, man, like these things can last for a very long time.
They suck.
To where, again, it's the right direction, and everything that they have said and have a clear idea of what they want to do instead of rather doing the, are we rebuilding or retooling? Are we trying to win? Instead of being caught in between, they chose a direction. I just think rebuilds can be avoidable, and I think maybe this one wasn't, but though you got here, makes you a big loser in the offseason because this is not what Cardinals' success, not judging them on them playing golf in October and how their prospects did that season.
Good thing it's not a rebuild, though, T-Bone. It's just a build, thanks to the DeWitts. Just a build. Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. We're off and running here on BK and Ferrario. Hey, coming up at 11:30, Chris Kerber, our usual hit on Wednesdays. We're going to do it a little special. He's going to come in studio for 2 segments today. We're going to talk Olympics. We'll talk Blues. But we're also going to have him stick around for questions and answers. This was something we toyed around with for the last couple of weeks. Send us your trade proposals. Realistic trade proposals. I have to put realistic in there, T-Bone, because somebody earlier today texted me and said you should trade a second-round pick for Connor McDavid. Don't like that kind of sarcasm, but send us your realistic trade proposals. No, I don't think. I think Edmund, probably St. Louis would say, no, it's too much money to take on.
True. Can't win with a guy making $10 million.
You can tweet it to me or X it to me at Ferrario 101 ESPN. You can send them over on our Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646, and also on the Mic Drop app, or the Mic Drop feature on the 101 ESPN app, which is brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Send us the trade proposals that you think you'd like to see the Blues do at the trade deadline or the offseason, and what we'll do is we'll toy around with it. Curbs, Tanner, Bradford, and I coming up at 11:45. So that's coming up at about 15. Coming up next, Illinois lost in a, would you call it a nail biter?
Yeah.
Overtime loss.
Overtime.
Still to Wisconsin, so T-Bone's not too happy about it. Yeah, we'll get the resident Illini fans and why they're still going to win the whole tournament coming up next year on 101 ESPN.
You can Now listen to 101 ESPN on demand. Get caught up on all our shows and podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN podcasts are presented by the Schaefer Door Company. ESPN has your shot to score a 4-pack of tickets to Monster Energy AMA Supercross, returning to the Dome at America's Center Saturday, April 4th. Watch the premier riders in the world as well as the rising stars as they put it all on the line for the coveted title of Supercross Champion. Experience the intense racing of the world's most demanding sport live at Monster Energy AMA Supercross.
Get all the info and register to win a free 4-pack of tickets now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 app.
They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
That was from Peacock last night as the Illini fall to Wisconsin 92-90. Back-to-back losses for T-Bone's squad as they're supposed to be headed for the Natty. And now they've lost to Michigan State, a 10 seed, by the way, that they lost by 3 points, also in overtime on the road. And then last night to Wisconsin. T-Bone, I tuned into this one because I knew we would be talking about it, but also I was kind of curious after that Michigan State game what things would look like. Illinois was down in the first quarter, and I'm thinking, it's like, oh, okay, so it's carrying over. And then after that, things kind of picked themselves back up. Illini dragged themselves back into it, essentially losing to overtime. I'm very curious as to what stood out to you in this one, because just general reaction from me, I don't care that they lost. I mean, they were still without two of their best players. Stojakovic was a late scratch to that basketball game. And on top of it, Wagler went off after a game where he shot poorly. So, look, I looked at this and say, yeah, they lost, and you texted and said it hurts their chances for a number 1 seed or a Big Ten championship. Man, I've said this about SLU. I think teams need to go through adversity. You don't want to just skip your way into postseason action and act as if you're untouchable. Man, you'll lose, and you'll lose if you think you're you're invincible. And I think it's good that Illinois is getting a taste of what it looks like when injuries pop up, and I think it's good for them to lose a couple of games.
Yeah, I think last night's loss was about the lack of guards that they had available to them. Boswell was out with injury. Stojakovic, as you mentioned, was ruled out late. It was kind of surprising when he popped up on the questionable in the injury report.
Because they only had 6 or 7 guys that they were able to use.
They went 6-man rotation.
Yeah.
Brandon Lee came in late in the game, or in for about a minute. That was more of, I think, fouling purposes than anything else. He's the designated foul guy when needed.
I always loved that role as an 8th grader.
They were running 6 guys, and Wisconsin has 2 really good guards that played very well in yesterday's contest, to where had they been healthy, they had Boswell or they had Stojakovic. I'm with you. I'm not overly concerned. I think when they get healthy, they're going to be fine. One thing that is a little alarming is the lack of abilities to get stops against some of these top-end teams. And Wisconsin people don't view as a top 25 team. They're pretty solid. I mean, their 2 biggest wins this year, at Illinois, at Michigan. So they're a solid squad. The problem for me with Illinois that I'm going to keep my eye on as they start to get healthier, can they get stops when they go up against these high-end teams? Because they've got the offense to compete with anybody. They couldn't get stops last night to save their life, and that was the problem in Michigan State's game. It was a problem again last night. It was a problem early on in the year when they played UConn and lost. That will be the thing. If you're going to get to the Final Four, which I do believe they're still capable of, defense is the thing that they're going to have to clean up and make sure that they can get enough stops to allow the offense to pull away in games.
Can you get stops? And frankly, can you generate a little more havoc as well? You only turned over Wisconsin 4 different times. Now, granted, down the stretch, second half, forcing overtime, Wisconsin was pristine, okay?
They went a stretch of their third turnover, I think, was at the 6.5-minute mark of the first half.
Exactly.
And they didn't turn the basketball over again until 3 minutes left in overtime, which is insane.
Yeah. Like you, I worry a little bit, just a bit right now, about the interior because it was shocking to me. I feared a little bit of a letdown following that extremely emotional outcome, obviously, when you're talking about Michigan State. You lost to the 10th-ranked team in the nation and probably one that's going to be priming itself for a top 5-ish run heading into March, okay? You did that on the road. It's a quick turnaround. You're returning home. Now, Nolan Winter was a beast in the previous game for Wisconsin, but when you are consistently allowing him to have his way on the glass with those 11 boards, you want to see more toughness. You want to see more physicality on a continuous basis because Wisconsin hasn't exactly been great shakes, okay, throughout the entire year, but still 9 wins now in league play. And you know, Tanner, that the physicality is going to do nothing but ramp up as the schedule progresses. We always knew you weren't going to be able to extend that streak into 13, 14, 15 win territory. This is still the Big Ten, but it is refreshing in a way. It is a wake-up call now, back-to-back defeats, and you try to lick your wounds. You have about a week to get ready before you face Indiana next.
And the other one that we're focused on is tonight, where Mizzou takes on A&M. They're at home, correct, Bradford, with this one?
Yeah.
This is, I mean, look, we've talked all season. They're a bubble team. Bradford, you don't have 4 minutes to explain to us why they're a bubble team.
Understood.
But this is a massive game for Mizzou. I think they lose in this one. I don't think they have the type of competition to go up against A&M. If you pull it out, then it's more in line with them being a tournament team. I just don't think you're going to have the depth and the ability to go toe-to-toe with Texas A&M.
Yeah, and sorry, they're at Texas A&M. They're home against Texas this weekend. These 2 games are huge for them. A&M is a 8 seed, I think, 7 or 8, depending on which bracketology you look at. And then Texas is on a fringe of a bubble. We were talking about this yesterday off air with Bradford, BK, and I. I think they've got to get to 10 conference wins if they're going to end up getting into the NCAA tournament. A&M would be a big one to pick up. It's on the road, which makes it look a little bit better on the resume. The tough part is like, I have no faith in this Missouri team. I mean, I've talked about it with
Been that
you
way
guys
all season.
Yeah, they're just too inconsistent. They're not great at one thing. They're just solid at everything. And Mark Mitchell's their go-to scorer, but on the road, man, they've had some weird games where you look at their schedule and go, all right, well, they should easily be able to beat a team like Ole Miss on the road. No, they lost the game at Ole Miss. You look at that LSU game. Okay, LSU's a team they should beat. Well, it's on the road. Boom, they lose that basketball game. I'm expecting them to lose tonight because they seem to struggle on the road, but this would be a huge win if they can pick it up. I think they got to go 1-1, Bradford, in this stretch at A&M versus Texas.
I don't disagree whatsoever, and I've been adamant. Listen, guys, I have been, yes, very steadfast about my belief that I do think, in spite of the options you have out there in the SEC elsewhere, this is going to be, at the end of the day, an NCAA tournament team. Now, you can poke holes, obviously, and a lot of the cons and a lot of the weaknesses still that this team possesses. But I will say this. Am I expecting this team to go into College Station tonight to knock off a team that is 7-3 in the SEC thus far? I'm not, even though Florida absolutely boat raced Texas A&M a few days ago. Am I expecting more of a representative effort for 40 minutes on the road this time around? I am, because if I'm a Missouri enthusiast, if I'm really looking at this team even objectively, I am definitely optimistic about what I saw as recently as Saturday in that South Carolina game. Okay, I know you're talking about a team that was definitely down, but when you saw the effort there, when you saw the defensive intensity, and you referenced, Tanner, the matter of Mark Mitchell, everybody under the sun understands that is your number one option. When he struggles or when the ball is forced out of his hands, this Missouri team obviously responds in kind. But when you have somebody now like a Jaden Stone, who was the leading scorer, mind you, with 22 on Saturday and has been that guy for the better part of conference season, he's looking at maybe second or third All-SEC team honors. I kid you not. When you're seeing that balance, when you see the continued efforts of T.O. Barrett at the controls of the offense improving as well to go along with the defense of an Anthony Robinson, this team is becoming more well-rounded than a lot of individuals have expected, I think. So should they be in the game tonight? Absolutely. If you're not, I think that's more of a problem heading into a game you have to take at home on Saturday versus Texas.
So we'll see what Mizzou has against A&M tonight. We'll react to it tomorrow. SLU's got a game on Friday as well, so we'll preview that tomorrow on BK and Ferrario. Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns, I'm Alex Ferrario. Coming up next, we've got Chris Kerber in studio with us for a couple of segments. We're going to talk Olympics. We'll talk a little Blues in this break, but we're also going in the 11:45 segment, going to take your trade proposals. You can send them over via X at Ferrario101 ESPN, via our Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646, or over on our mic drop feature on the 101 ESPN app. So we'll get to all those in about 15 minutes. Chris Kerber joins us in studio next here on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley, St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
Tune in next week as the Morning After broadcast live from Cardinals spring training in Jupiter, Florida. Tim, Doug, Martin, and Jackson will be talking with players, coaches, and reporting on all the news from Roger Dean Stadium. Don't miss TMA Live from spring training all next week. Brought to you by Healthcare Evolution. Nagging injury? In pain? Real answers and same-day pain relief at healthcare-evolution.com. Friday night. It's the Rising Stars game. Tip off at 8. Your home for the NBA is 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Fighting Illini fall in OT again. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night at State Farm Center, the Wisconsin Badgers handed Illinois its second straight overtime loss. Greg Gard's team holds on for a 92-90 win over Brad Underwood's 8th-ranked bunch. Elsewhere, unranked Miami stunned number 11 North Carolina 75-66. 8+ hours from now, Missouri visits Texas A&M. Baseball, St. Louis has traded reliever Andre Granillo to Washington, while Detroit brings back Justin Verlander. One more AL-related development. Blue Jays outfielder Anthony Santander faces shoulder surgery, which will sideline him for several months. This Sports Center update was presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. We're talking everything St. Louis Blues as we head into the Blues booth on 101 ESPN. Presented by Boardwalk Hardwood Floors. Find your perfect new floor at boardwalkhardwood.com.
So Wednesdays, we get the pleasure to talk with Chris Kerber, but because it's the Olympic break, he was free, we were free, and we said, let's get him in studio to talk a little Olympic hockey, talk some Blues hockey, and he's going to stick around for an extra segment with us today. So, Kerbs, great to see you as always, man. How are you?
Fellas, I am good. Enjoying some of the downtime, getting caught up on some other stuff as well, and getting ready now for the men's tournament to start.
Yep, we got Dvorsky's in action right now for Team Slovakia against Finland. Third period as it's a 1-1 game. Broberg's in action later tonight, and then you got Canada and USA playing tomorrow.
Well, Broberg's, I think it's at
2 o'clock today, right?
Is it 2 o'clock or is it 3 o'clock?
It's
so on my NHL website, is that Eastern time?
Yeah.
So like in the season, it's Central time.
Yeah.
Right? So I didn't know what I was dealing with there.
Yeah.
So I knew it was 2 or 3.
I don't think it's going to be much of a game. They're a 5.5 goal favorite over Team Italy. I don't know if I've ever
Don't
seen that
speak
before.
poorly of Joey and I.
One more Blues talk. Check out.
Oh, and then Bradford wants us to restart it again. All right, we'll restart it again.
Yeah.
Chris Kerber here in studio with us. And by the way, we will do those trade proposals coming up in the next segment and questions and answers, so you can still send those in to us. Kurt's big picture, last time we saw the Olympics was with NHL players was 2014?
2014.
Man, over 10 years since we've had that, and I can't tell you the excitement that I have had, and I know we've talked about it as well. I've seen fans react to it, of just having the NHL players back in Olympic action.
Well, you know what? The thing of it is the Olympics used to be, amateur sports, just like college sports used to be amateur sports and things like that, right? So, as time changed and when it, and then obviously you define, okay, what is an amateur? All right, yes, no, they're not being paid by a team, but they're getting sponsorships from Adidas or Nike or Kellogg's or somebody, right? But then once the NHL and once the sports leagues got in, once the NBA went to the Olympics too, then you were truly seeing best on best. And that is what the Olympics really is about. So once we got out of the realm of it being, of it having to be, the naivety of amateur sports, and we put the pros in there, there's a difference. You guys know the difference. Now, obviously, the one was canceled because of COVID, right? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, NHL would have been in the last Olympics. But the reality of it is the interest level is just far greater. And look, I know people are hoping for United U.S. Canada, and Canada is by far the deepest team down the middle of them all, without a shred of doubt. But having said that, Sweden to me is the other one that's going to go. It'd be really intriguing here, and you never ever. I'm just telling you right now. Right? Never doubt the Finns.
Well, I'm doubting them right now. It's 1-1 against Slovakia.
But listen, in the game of hockey,
I've got them minus 1.5 at plus 220. I was all in at $20. All right, I need a win here.
So, you need two. I'm just telling you, don't doubt the Finns. It's a nationality that just plays well in tournaments. So I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, I said the exact same sentiment that you said about Sweden to these guys when I walked in. I said, man, I know everybody expects USA and Canada to be in that gold medal game. I think Sweden, I looked at their roster, their starting lineup, at least for later on today. Philip Forsberg's not playing for them. He is a scratch. A guy who's got 30-plus goals is a scratch. But I also told him the vibes around Team USA going into the tournament, Curbs, it was a little surprising to me because they didn't take Jason Robertson. They didn't take Cole Caulfield. There was concerns of Austin Matthews being named the captain, JT Miller being on the squad. That's not a good vibe going into an Olympic tournament when people are questioning the decisions.
Yeah, but the people that are questioning decisions were not in the room, and so the vibe is a made-up vibe. Fair. What you're talking about is not the vibe of the team itself. Matthew Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk, Jack Eichel aren't sitting there down there going, the hell they're doing putting that guy with us, because like JT Miller was part of what happened last year with the Four Nations. So to me this wasn't just, hey, how well are you playing for your NHL team this year? Bill Guerin started looking at it last year. Really started looking at it last year, what he brought and what he started to build with the Four Nations tournament into this year. This has been a process. Now, it's a gamble. It's a gamble when you're going up against, what Canada has, what Sweden has, what some of these other teams have, right? And you leave a guy that was, third or fourth in the NHL in scoring, and Robertson, Caulfield was fifth, maybe sixth, right? There are the reasons for that. And what people are talking about is it the defensive side of the puck? I look at what Canada's got, and Canada puts, on at least on a practice line, we'll see if it sits there, but Tom Wilson on a line with Connor McDavid.
Well, you got one job, go to the net.
Well, yeah. Well, look what Zach Hyman has done with him, right? So, you look at the lines that they've put together, and it's Celebrini on one side of McDavid and Wilson on the other. These teams. Now, keep this in mind, too, in the Olympics, it's not 18-2. You dress 20-2. Mm-hmm. All right? So, for example, the United States will dress, at least with the way that they run the lines with the reporting that's coming out of there, right? They're going to have the extra two as being one forward in Trocheck, right? And then another defenseman. So if somebody goes down, you've got somebody to slide in there. Some team may decide to do two defensemen. However, that all works out. But it's actually not 18-2 like the NHL. It's 20-2. So they're going to have some options, and that's why the depth of these teams is so important.
What I'm so fascinated by is for U.S. and Canada, goaltending is the one that's becoming the spotlight. Yeah. And it's amazing. Like we just brought up the last time the NHL players were at the Olympics. TJ Oshie became TJ Sochi at that time as a St. Louis Blue. And now you're looking at it, and it feels like Binnington's the guy that's the biggest storyline at the Olympics for Team Canada because they're under so much pressure to win gold with how deep they are, as you had mentioned. And he's not had a good regular season with the St. Louis Blues. It was kind of the same storyline going into Four Nations, and Binnington just turned it on, right? Big game Benner, showed back up, was fantastic, got them to the gold medal game, was awesome in that game. And he's being questioned once again going into the Olympics of will he turn it back on? And then on the U.S. side, it's Connor Hellebuck, who's not been good during the regular season since he's come back from injury. So I find the goaltending situation for the two top dogs fascinating for this Olympic tournament.
And what I'm most curious to see here, the biggest difference, say, between last year maybe with Binnington and this year is if you dig deep into the analytics stuff, you look at some of the other underlying numbers. I'm not a big save above expected guy, but, as it becomes more of a norm, you have to adjust with the time, right? And those numbers aren't where they were a year ago for him. But this is what I've said. I can't tell you the number of interviews I've done on Canadian radio stations, okay, and in different places. And I'm like, guys, I think he's going to be just fine. Now, I could be way wrong on this, and he may go up there or over there, and it just may not work out, okay? But Team Canada is not the St. Louis Blues.
Yep.
Right? Team USA is not the Winnipeg Jets. It's just really that simple. And I'll tell you right now, if your team Canada...
Dvorsky just scored, by the way.
Yeah, Dvorsky just gave Slovaks a 2-1 lead.
T-Bone's losing his money. Cash out, T-Bone!
Oh, now I can't.
It's round robin. We might have to check the Finns out after game one. Who knows? To me, it just comes down to I look at the pedigree, right? And for the love of God, don't anybody trust that Dom Lasician that's out there. I mean,
God, yes, Kerb.
The guys, he's like, okay, so you read numbers, and half the time you're just wrong. Yeah. You know, and there's some with the game. Jordan Binnington met with John Cooper in the hotel when Tampa Bay was in town just a few weeks ago, right? Reassured him, you're the guy. Now, they're going to split these first two games. Yeah. That's not a surprise at all. You want to get that. That's pretty normal in all these different situations there. So we'll see how that goes. But I will honestly be surprised, Tanner, to your point, is if in the end, no matter what, it's not Binnington versus Hellebuck in the key games for those teams. I believe in something. I don't believe you lose with your best players on the bench.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to go with your proven players until they haven't proven it, and those guys have proven it at that level.
Well, and JR, we recorded the Last Minute Blues podcast today, and JR said that, he talked to Binnington before he went to Milan, and, JR asked Binnington if, hey, wanted to do a sit-down piece just talking about how so many people are doubting you right now, and Binnington's response to him was, look, I politely declined, let's get over to Milan, let's play in this tournament, and then afterwards, he said, I thrive when people don't believe in me, and so I'm going to take that over to Milan.
The guys, he told this story. The only reason I'll repeat this story is because he actually said it on stage at the All-Star game. I asked him, how he has gone through it. This is a guy that has had to prove himself time and time and time again. And look, the Blues over the last 4 years, aside from the second half of last season, have been on a downward trend. And clearly we're going to get into that in the next segment, right? With our fantasy GM run here. With that, I'm looking at guys that were playing with the St. Louis Blues, right? When that trend started, the year that Doug Armstrong decided to make all those moves, that are going on other teams like an Ivan Barbashev playing really well. Right? Like a Pietrangelo goes and wins a Stanley Cup. A Niko Mikkola goes and wins 2 Stanley Cups. Right? Okay, so when you're dealing with a team game, especially one where there is not one person aside from maybe the points of Justin Falk or some of the young guys, where everybody's been bad this year, to me, I just look at this and go, all right, wait till he gets there. But he told this story. He would do, those big, heavy medicine balls that kind of look like massive hacky sacks on steroids, big heavy leather things, right? Okay. He'd jump up, the exercise that guys would do, you pick it up, you jump in the air, you land, you slam it down on the ground. He'd pretend certain faces were down on the ground.
Oh my God.
Right?
That's amazing.
I mean, the guy's a competitor, and if you're Team Canada going in, right? Hey, Logan Thompson, he's had a heck of a year.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. I still believe that if you went to, say, Vegas and said you could have this guy or that guy, I think they might take our guy. Right? I really do believe that. And so, to me, I don't know if they've got... Jordan is going to have to prove he can't get it done before they don't give him that chance. It's just that simple.
Yep. Do you think if he doesn't get it done, does it lose the big game winner effect? Can it go away with one tournament? That's the thing that I'm trying to figure out, if that's what occurred. Or do you need to see it happen twice to where it is, maybe that was a blip on the radar, but when he gets in another big situation, he will step up.
Well, this is where the guy that I won't mention his name again was right, and he's not. This is where he's not wrong on something. I mean, go look at the last. Okay, they didn't win the gold medal game, or I'm sorry, they did win the gold medal game, but they didn't win the world championship game. Is one he was locking onto, and then he lost Game 7. He was outstanding up to that point. I go in, and this is the hardest part, is go look at how these goals are going in, right?
Yeah, that's the part that analytics aren't going to tell you.
It's the part that just doesn't exist in there. So does he lose it? I don't know. I think it's part of who he is, part of what he is. I can tell you this, that look, if he comes back, and maybe this segues into the next segment, but if Doug Armstrong has said we're open for business, you're getting calls on that guy. And there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
There's a reason. It's what I just said. Those other players that you've traded, right? And you traded them because more contract situations. You're taking the team in another direction. But those are guys you didn't want to sign to extensions. Look at what they're doing elsewhere, right? They're guys that they didn't fit the mold of the team you saw at the moment. Well, here it is a few years later. We may see some more deals, right? Where some of those guys were supposed to be that new mold, right? And so players in different situations with different teams, especially, like best of the best teams, I think they're going to look a little different.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because on the other side, we've gotten trade proposals, which Slovakia just scored again, T-Bone. My goodness. What a bet that you laid on that one.
Do you know Brett Barshevsky? Do you know Brett?
No.
Our PR
yeah,
guy.
sorry,
PR guy? Yeah, we call him Bad Beat Brett.
You think he bet on him too?
There's a good chance.
I hear most of his bets. Makes a lot of sense, actually, for that one. By the way, Dvorsky was on the ice. I don't know if he picked up an assist, but it was Slovakia's power play, and Dvorsky was on the ice.
20 years old to be playing in that setting.
He's the only center in the NHL on Team Slovakia, which is impressive.
Well, and I looked at this, too, before the tournament started. If Macklin Celebrini wouldn't have been picked, he would have been the youngest player to play in the Olympic tournament.
There is the one aspect of these young Blues players that they have brought in.
He did pick up an assist real quick, by the way.
He did.
Yeah, he did pick up 2 points.
That's 2. So one thing that I've seen with pretty much all these young kids that have come in that have been drafted in these last few years, there's personality to them.
Yeah.
There's a comfortability to talk. You could sit next to them in the locker. They can hold a conversation. They can talk the game, but they can just talk life. They walk past you. They look you in the eye. Hey, Kerbs, how are you today? Things like that just show you can mold. You can. Yeah. There's a comfortability in the situation that you're in. And I haven't felt around a Snuggerud. Even a brief time around a Carbonneau, I haven't felt around Dvorsky. I haven't felt that any of this is too big for any of them yet. Stenberg, not at all. Castamont, I haven't felt that.
Yeah.
And that is something that I know. I've talked to. Alexander said the character, the character and the IQ is huge.
That's what Army told us at the draft last year. He said we look at hockey IQ and we look at character. Those are the 2 things we go when we're evaluating guys that we select in the draft.
You can go out in the Olympics and start to perform. And the stage. And real quick, like when I was talking to Alexander Steen about Broberg before he made the team, maybe about a month before the teams were announced, I said, what's the difference? He said, it's not that sometimes you don't see the ability, the talent, or that a young player can't perform there. But in a tournament like this, you want to know, how does a mistake impact them? Like, if you give up, and this was his example, if you serve up a pizza in the first or second period, does that mess you up for the third period in the game where you need the win to go to the medal round? He goes like we know with Erik Karlsson, he'll serve up a pizza and it just doesn't matter. Okay? He says, but they have to find, that's the kind of stuff they're asking about when they're looking at, do you bring a young player, on how they're going to perform in that stage.
He's Chris Kerber, Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. We'll come back with those trade proposals. I put it out yesterday over on X just to send us your trade proposals, and we'll kind of talk about it. We're not going to dive into the weeds of the actual prospect, but just the idea, if this was the direction the Blues were to go, we'll do that in a fill-in segment for questions and answers next here on 101 ESPN.
Want more Blues talk? Check out the Last Minute Blues podcast with Alex Ferrario, Donnie Fandango, and Jeremy Rutherford on 101 ESPN. The guys bring you the latest news and nuggets on your St. Louis Blues.
The Last Minute Blues podcast is presented by Blue Note Roofing. Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for free inspection. Watch or listen to the Last Minute Blues podcast now on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com.
Hey, listen, February is the month where you get probably the best deal you get all year long when it comes to replacing that HVAC system. So if you're sitting, I had a buddy call me the other day, and he says, hey, I hear you do these reads, and you talk about Classic Air Care all the time. I'm about to go out of town, and I want to know, are they really good? I said, well, number one, I wouldn't be talking about them on the air if they weren't. I wouldn't be telling you about them if I didn't trust them to take care of my own house. So he called them. They've gotten over there to take care of things. Now, if you need a new unit, and when I was driving into the station today, I saw 2 Classic Air Care vans right off of Bitterfield working on a house. This is the time to get it. They're going to give you a free water heater if you get a new unit during the month of February. You're going to get that great 4.8 Google rating of service that they have. There's over 100 orange vans with the Penguins on the road right now, and they can typically get to you with 24 hours, and you get that classic 5-star service. Brady was great. He helped me understand why my filters weren't lasting long enough and getting clogged. I appreciated his knowledge and walked me through my issues on how to avoid future problems. That was from Zach. Brady taught him how to maintain his own unit to help cut down on repair costs. That's Classic Air Care. You can get a hold of them online at classicaircare.com. They've been making people comfortable since 1926.
ESPN has your shot to score a pair of passes to the 2026 State Farm Missouri Valley Conference Men's Basketball Tournament, hitting the court at Enterprise Center March 5th through the 8th. March begins here with the Arch Madness of the annual MVC Tournament, featuring an 11-team field. All session and single session tickets are on sale now.
Get all the details and enter to win free tickets for Arch Madness now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 app.
We're right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. You've got questions, we may have the answers. Maybe. It's BK and Ferrario's Questions and Answers on 101 ESPN.
It's 11:57. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. I know I pulled a BK on my time clock management, but that's okay. We got Chris Kerber in studio.
It's probably my fault.
Enjoyable conversation, so we'll carry this a little bit longer, and we'll make it up on the other side. And we're going to do questions and answers.
TMA tomorrow morning.
Good luck with that. They had us on time today, which T-Bone and I were like, oh, of course, when there's not a whole lot going on. Anyway, we're going to do questions and answers a little bit differently here, because I figure with Kerbs in studio, obviously all of the trade conversation is frozen right now, but March 6th is that trade deadline, and a lot of conversation will pick up once the freeze is lifted. And I wanted to see fans' trade proposals, because there's a lot of conversation of guys like Thomas and Kyrou and Shen and Falk. So I'm not going to ask you guys to dig into the weeds of these prospects. What I'm going to do is I'm going to present a couple of these fans' trade proposals. Right. You tell me, one, who says no. So would the X team say no to this? Would the Blues say no to this? Two, if this is the correct direction the Blues should trend.
Okay, I want to throw out 2 caveats to do this, because normally with me and trade rumor stuff. I have not, you want to throw me out a prospect of the Carolina Hurricanes who's doing great in Charlotte or wherever. I'm going to be like, I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just being honest with you on that. But the merits of certain things and walk you through the hows, the whys, happy to do it. The only other thing, any trade proposals that come in that want me traded, I just want you all to know I have a no trade clause right now.
No, this is no move. This is no move.
So you can all park that one for a while, because I really don't give a rat's what you think about it.
Well, and also, this is us conversing. No, that was fantastic. Was that because we did get 2 of those, and I'm like, all right, not even going to do this one.
No, go ahead. You go ahead. It doesn't bother me if they say it. I'm just telling you, I have a no trade clause, and I'm just letting everybody know now that I'm not waiving it. All right?
Well, and also, this is us just conversing of fan-related proposals. Yes. None of these are rumors that we're creating.
Well, see somebody said send Kerbs to L.A. for a third. Yeah. Nope, not going.
Sorry, no trade proposal. He's stuck here.
Don't like the taxes in L.A. You're stuck with me.
All right, so I kind of categorized these in terms of players because a lot of people sent over the same players. So let's carry over the conversation that we were just having about Jordan Binnington and what could happen if he does well. Somebody sent over the proposal, Jordan Binnington to the Edmonton Oilers for a defenseman prospect and a centerman prospect. Two of these guys aren't any high-level prospects. They're just younger pieces, one a defenseman, one a center, for Jordan Binnington to Edmonton.
Would Edmonton do that? Yes. Would the Blues do that? No. So, here's what I will tell you, at least in my opinion on that. Any one of these, to me, if it is a Shen, Kyrou, Thomas, probably Falk, say Binnington, put it in that group. You're veteran-proven guys where all of them have some kind of term, and all of them pretty favorable contracts in the grand scheme of things. You got to make sure that you're getting something for sure back.
100%.
Like it's not a gamble, right?
Yep.
You're not trading somebody. You better be sure that they are going to be in other words, we're not trading a Barbashev for a Zach Dean. Now, that may seem a little unfair. I know Zach Dean has had injury problems and stuff like that. So we haven't fairly had a chance to see that. But you got to make sure that you know that somebody you're getting in that deal is going to be impactful if you're trading that caliber of player, in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd say no on that.
Yeah, I would too. I'm 100% with the Kerbs. I think those 5 guys that you laid out, you either need a first-round pick to where when you're the Blues, you've got a pretty good track record of selecting in the first round.
Yes.
So you feel confident that you're going to get a good player with that, or it is a prospect that you believe is going to be someone that can impact your team. Maybe not next
Tanner,
year.
I think for those guys, it's got to be both. It's got to include both.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. If you're the Blues, you're not, well, depending on who you move, I will say this. Doug Armstrong has made it very clear that there's not a stomach for a long rebuild. Okay, so to me, if you're trading, say, to the Edmonton Oilers for a first-round pick, and I don't even think they have one, but let's say they did. If you're trading to the Edmonton Oilers for a first-round pick, right? A 25th, 26th, 27th potential pick is someone that's not impacting you for another 3 or 4 years. Now, yes, you're going to get, maybe there's value, use that to swap or something like that. But this is how you fill some more immediate holes and how you find. So let me real quick give you an example, and then we'll just rifle through a bunch more for you, okay? When the LA Kings, when the Minnesota Wild traded Kevin Fiala to the LA Kings, Fiala had just come off an 86-point season and was 26 years of age. Who does that put him in line with, right? Those Robert Thomas numbers, right? And age factor, right? Okay. They got Brock Faber back, if my memory serves me right, in that deal.
Yep.
Okay. Look at what happened there. Okay. That's the kind of thing you've got to be dealing with where you know that kind of player you're getting.
I want to clarify. I agree. When you are making those trades of Falk, Thomas, Kyrou, if those guys are in the rumor mill, I agree. You probably need a little bit of both, right? You either need one prospect and a first-round pick, or 2 prospects that you think can impact a team, or 2 firsts, honestly, whichever direction you like to go. I think with Shen and Binnington, I'm okay with just one. And the reason I say that is for Binnington, for example, right? If you do move him at this year's trade deadline, you've only got another year left on that contract, and he's having a down season. And maybe this is the one-off, but if someone says, I'm willing to give a first-round pick now or one of our top-level prospects now, but that's all they're willing to do in the rest of his lotteries, because they're closer towards the end of that aging curve, Binnington and Shen are the ones I'm more willing to do the one of those pieces only compared to needing 2.
All right, so now I'm going to move over to the captain, Braden Shen. A few of these came in, but this was the one that I picked because I think it was the best. Braden Shen traded to Carolina for a younger winger named Bradley Nadeau. He's a 20-year-old who's playing in the AHL right now. He's had a cup of coffee in the NHL, former first-round pick. He's had 32 goals last season in the AHL. He's got 2 goals in 8 games for Carolina this season. So a young winger, 20 years old, right shot, who has scored in the AHL for Braden Shen.
That there to me is a deal that you start to look at in terms of what you're getting back. You know, this is a guy that was drafted in the first round. All right, he had more than a point a game numbers at University of Maine. Okay, and so he's fitting kind of more. Keep in mind that MO that Doug Armstrong and Alexander Steen have been looking for. I mean, look at the player they just claimed off waivers, Jack Finley, which, by the way, I really actually love that pickup.
I love that, too.
I love that pickup and the chance of there. So, to me, Yes, that is the kind of possibility. Like when you're trading to a team like Carolina that's been trying to get over that hump and over that hump, okay, that's where they've got to make the trade. It's somewhere where you're getting a Ryan O'Reilly for a Tage Thompson. Okay, this one's a little bit more of an outlier, but extreme. But you'll understand what I'm talking about. The Dallas Stars getting a Joe Nieuwendyk, but giving up Jerome McGinley to get him, winning a cup. The Calgary Flames win a Stanley Cup with the Ramage-Wamsley deal for Brett Hull. Now, I'm not saying we're swapping future Hall of Famers, and we know that yet, but I'm saying that you want young players come in that could become terrific.
Yeah. All right.
That's one that I would do, just real quick, because that's what I was talking about there, where you probably can only get one of those, whether it's the prospect or the first-round pick for a guy like Shen. If that would be on the table, that is something that I am open-minded to.
All right, so over to Justin Falk. This one, Justin Falk to the Boston Bruins for a young prospect who played in the NHL for them a little bit last year. His name is Matthew Poitras.
Yeah.
And then their defenseman, Mason Lohrei, who's 6'6", plays the left side. He was rumored to potentially be in that deal for Rasmus Anderson, but of course that one fell through.
And who we trading?
Justin Falk. So Justin Falk to Boston for
those two guys?
Poitras and Mason Lohrei.
Yes.
I think,
in as well.
I don't think Boston does that.
I don't know.
That's too expensive.
Boston, I don't think Boston does that.
If it's one of those guys.
Exactly.
If it's one of those.
It's one of those guys. You know, one thing that the Blues need this year is a second-round pick.
Yeah, one of those guys in a second.
Those second-round picks are valuable in terms of, can you combine that with a first and move up? Can you do stuff? So somewhere in there, you take a prospect like one of those guys, right, and you move them for, say, that and a second-round pick, or somewhere in there that fills some holes you need that for other assets. I could see those kind of pieces happening.
So the other one with Justin Falk, they packaged Falk with Pius Suter and put him to Detroit for Nate Danielson, who was drafted right before Dalibor Dvorsky in that 2023 draft. Sebastian Casa, who is a goaltender who is playing in the American Hockey League for them, and a first-round draft pick. And Detroit is the one that's been rumored to be looking for a middle six winger / centerman and a right shot defenseman.
To me, I see a fit for a Justin Falk in Detroit.
I do too.
I see a fit for Braden Shen. The question is again, these guys, we're going to assume that we're just getting through no trade clauses and those are not going to be in there.
Yeah.
Right?
We're making this super simple.
Scenario there. I will tell you my biggest hesitation in trading a Braden Shen is the one thing that I've really learned to believe in is culture. And to me, I think he's a real big piece of the culture. And still with 2 years left on his contract, for me, he's one where that can be a move later. That can be a next year move. And then maybe it's only a team having it for a year and a half, that kind of stuff. At the same time, if there is enough value coming back, then you do put that over it and you start to really turn the page there. That's one of my bigger concerns when it comes to moving him. But either way, what I do like that the fans are texting in here, right? And again, I'm being just totally open and honest. I don't know enough about these prospects. I haven't watched enough in the American League or talked to enough scouts about, this guy's going to be this, that guy's going to be that. So I don't even want to give the illusion that I do know that. But I think they're thinking along the right lines of the kind of deals that have to happen to move the Blues forward.
Like that Falk one, and I don't know if Suter gets you a second prospect in it or not, but it's the right framework for Falk, right? Prospect, former first-round pick, as you mentioned just before Dalibor Dvorsky, and a first-round pick, or a second. And I think
the goaltender was the part that fascinated me because if they decide to move Jordan Binnington, you're going to have to find a younger goaltender that might be closer if Joel Hofer takes over that number one.
Again, you go try the old veteran route.
Yeah, that's true.
That has worked for some, has not worked for others. The real intrigue for the trade deadline coming up is going to be, is there fire where there's smoke when it comes to 18 or 25?
Yeah.
Because if there is fire where their smoke is, and everyone's in there, if that is the case, right, then you are making an additional pivot from where you pivoted 3 years ago. And the question to be asked is, does that reset the process a little bit, or do you feel like you've continued it? Now, the one reason you're thinking, then this is why I will go back to the Fiala deal, right? And yes, okay, they had to decide, Minnesota had to decide whether or not they were going to sign him to a long-term deal, right? Again, that's a guy with 85 points and a ton of skill, 26 years of it. That's in the wheelhouse, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if you see what Florida did with Huberdeau, 100-point player. Yeah, they got Matthew Tkachuk, but they traded a 100-point player, is the point. Okay, and there's precedent where this has happened. It's just, what do you get back and does it short some holes? For example, I don't see a whole lot of center depth yet. Mm-hmm. Does Dvorsky step into that role? If you trade 18, I don't see you trading 22. I don't see Suter. You need some center depth,
right?
Still to come here. Those are the kind of things. Do you get a young centerman? All those things, obviously, are going to play a role in it. But the reason that somebody would have that kind of interest in Robert Thomas is they're looking at the team like, hey, we're going to kick the tire. Maybe they're looking for a change. Same thing with Jordan Kyrou. Well, same thing maybe with Parayko. But here's the one thing that Doug Armstrong did. Every single one of these contracts, and I actually still believe that Butch Navich will prove this to be okay, is a decent contract. It's a good contract, right? Like, you may not like what you've seen consistent-wise out of Jordan Kyrou, but every team around the league is going to go, wait a minute, a 70-point producer and a 30-point goal scorer at $8.5 million with the way things are going right now on our second line, that's fine. And what if down the road here, what if Dvorsky starts to take off, which you hope he would as a 10th overall pick, and you've kept Robert Thomas, and he supplants Robert Thomas on that top spot. Well, if those are your top two centermen, right, and your second line centerman with the cap going up is at $8 million, you're okay.
Yeah.
Go look at what the Vegas Golden Knights are paying their top three centermen, right? Look, I mean, just look down, and so it's okay to do that. So there's some fascinating scenarios coming up.
So I got two more before we break, because we got about 4 minutes. So two more here. One, we'll stick with Jordan Kyrou, as you were just speaking of him. Kyrou for Shane Wright and a first-round pick from Seattle.
That one fascinates the living heck out of me.
Is Shane Wright a replacement for Jordan Kyrou, though, or do you not look at it that way if you're trading Jordan Kyrou?
Well, here's what you're trading. Okay, you're trading franchise scenarios right now. Okay, they feel the heat a little bit in Seattle. They watched what happened when Vegas came into the league and they're like, how come that didn't happen for us? You've brought in some other obviously high draft picks and young players that have gone it. You're in the mix right now. Does a move like that, a Kyrou, at 27 years of age, under contract for the next 5 years and a very manageable contract, does that actually move you forward, even though you're giving up, a guy that you still think is a good prospect? Someone that hasn't necessarily clicked with them yet, right? And a change of scenery could be good. And if you make that deal and Jordan Kyrou becomes a 30-goal scorer and a 70-point player for Seattle, and Shane Wright comes to the St. Louis Blues, right, and becomes a 60-plus point player, something like that, as I think, is he a centerman at times too?
Yeah, so I think that's his natural.
So, well, that's a real intriguing one now, because that's where you don't have. So you've got depth on the wing, right? You got Carbonell coming in. You got depth on both sides, right? So that's a very fascinating, realistic one to kick around.
Yep. And then the final one, which there was a lot of these, included Robert Thomas over to Montreal for Caden Gooley, who is a defenseman, a young defenseman. They got a kid over in Russia named Zarkovsky, who was like the leading goal scorer in the KHL. And then I think the prize of this package is Michael Haig, who's playing in college right now, former first-round pick, and he's a potential top-line center who's 21 years old.
You get the feeling over time, so would you trade the one player for those three? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I don't think Montreal. You get two of those.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't see Montreal.
Montreal might say we'll throw in a first rather than all three.
But that's the
they're
price.
Not going to do that. But
that's the price Doug's probably putting on these guys.
Well,
as he should.
You got to absolutely. You got to ask and see where it's at. You get a feeling that there's certain teams, and again, where there's enough smoke, there's typically fire. And I can honestly tell you that smoke and fire is not coming anywhere from this Blues organization. And I have seen this place lock things down. It's just absolutely amazing. That's how I know when to ignore things and when not to ignore things. But you get the feeling with the way some of like the Elliot Friedman stuff were reporting on some potential deals between the Blues and Montreal earlier that could have involved maybe a Kyrou or somebody else. I've never asked, hey, is this true or that's not true? So I'm not here to validate or to say it's true or not true. But you do get the feeling that there's been enough churning of the water that a deal with a team like that becomes a possibility.
Right.
The conversations with Buffalo and O'Reilly started at the draft. Mm-hmm. They died down. It was after the Blues signed Perron back. They signed Bozak, and they realized, hey, we've got some better depth here at forward that made, when Berglund's agent screwed it up, made some things possible, that deal happened. So to me, it may not be the first kick of it, may not be the second one, but eventually, the way the Blues felt about this season in the summer, very different than how Doug Armstrong feels about his roster right now. Does that make a deal more likely? I don't know, but it definitely can make it easier.
Yeah. Well, great trade proposals, too, by the way. I mean, that was just...
Yeah, some of those are actually legit.
Yeah, that was just touching the surface. We had hundreds of them that we were unable to get to.
I couldn't get the notifications to turn off.
This one wants to trade BK to Kansas City. Does he have a no-trade clause?
No, not that I know of.
No, Kansas City doesn't have a team,
Dude,
though.
BK, you got to get those no-trade clauses.
Mine's no move. Sorry, I'm not going anywhere on this one.
Well, you got to know move, so you can't even be put on waivers.
I'm saying that without getting the approval from John and Tommy's, but I'll just say...
I think you read it wrong. I think you might have a no-trade.
Mine's actually... Mine's a modified. There's probably 12 teams in that one. Curbs, really appreciate you coming in and doing this with us. I know we went longer than I told you, but fun to talk a little hockey, and obviously...
Hey, can I reply to this real quick?
Yeah.
Kevin Fiala, so here's what somebody texted in. I don't know who this is, right? But this is the kind of BS junk. Kevin Fiala was a free agent. You have no clue. No, he was not when he was traded. He was not a free agent. Like, he was going to be. They traded his rights. They traded him, and they got Brock Faber for him because other teams were going to jump in there. Yeah. So the deal is like he wasn't. He was not a free agent. He was traded as a player. They traded him, right? And they got Brock Faber for him. Read through the weeds, you dopes. Like, figure it out. We cannot speak in crayon over the microphone to you all the time. All right. I feel better.
You know kind of where we're coming from. Then most of those
Chasers line, we're not fluid in cement.
God, I love that line. Curbs, appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the rest of the break, and we'll do this again soon. Chris Kerber, Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. I BK'd the clock up, so we're going to come back and reset things here on BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
WXOS HD1 East St. Louis. 101 ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return. 101 ESPN has your shot to score tickets to see Tim McGraw September 17th at Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. Find all the ticket info and enter to win free tickets for Tim McGraw now at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 app, powered by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. ESPN's Blues Fan of the Week.
Congratulations to Micah Walla of Lake St. Louis, Missouri. He's our newest 101 ESPN Blues Fan of the Week.
Submit your pick now at 101ESPN.com to be the next Fan of the Week and take home a pair of tickets to an upcoming Blues game.
Our Blues Fan of the Week is presented by CarStar, your auto body repair experts. Locally owned with nationwide warranty. See us at carstar.com.
This is exactly where you want to be, listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
To do some just, you know how they call it girl math? I'm going to call it radio math here and trying to figure out how to get us back on clock. We'll figure it out. By 1:45, we'll be doing the rewind. We'll be fine. With Bradford Bruns and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Alex Ferrario. Really appreciate Kerb swinging by with us in studio and appreciate all of you sending in those trade proposals. I know we kind of touched the surface on that. Maybe we'll get to it a little bit closer to the trade deadline when BK's back in studio, but thought it was pretty fascinating to kind of get into the eyes of what fans are looking for once you get more into the trade weeds. We'll get more into the Blues on the other side, talking about Jordan Kyrou and this core. But now let's get back into the Cardinals, because with this season being I don't want to say underwhelming one, but low expectations one, it always brings us back to the manager question, T-Bone, of how we are judging Oli Marmol. Did not, at least for now, get his extension with the team, so he's going into this being the final year of that contract that he has with the Cardinals, and a rebuilding scenario for this team. I don't know about you, T-Bone. The only thing that I'm judging Oli Marmol on, which I don't know how you judge this off of, is the vibes of the team. I'm not judging this off of a record. I'm not judging this off of, I guess I am judging it off of somewhat of the development for players, but I don't know how much I'm labeling that on the manager more than I'm just looking at the players itself and how they're developing. Does this team keep their head above water when they're losing every single night? Does this team, when it's in the dog days of the summer and you're in July, you've got nothing to play for, does this team continue to go out there and compete? Because the manager, just like a coach in hockey, it comes down to the leadership quality. Sometimes the leadership quality, there's only so much you can do if the players are checked out. But you've got a young group. You don't got a group of veterans anymore that are wanting to win and just are checked out. You've got a group of guys who are trying to showcase that they're major league worthy. So I'm looking at this as, does this team completely flame out and controversy in the clubhouse and things start getting off whack and players getting frustrated, or do they just continue this as every single day you go out there and you try and compete? Because that's when I think you've got a good manager.
Yeah, I think it's extremely hard to evaluate Oli Marmol this year because of the fact that they're in this rebuild. It's why I would give the contract extension to him now, but the Cardinals don't seem to want to do that. I think you're right. I think the only thing that you can really judge him off of this year is going to be, are the guys competing hard when their record is as bad as it could be in July, August, and September? Because I don't know if it's fair to say, well, does he get the best out of Jordan Walker? Jordan Walker's got to get the best out of Jordan Walker. They've worked on his swing enough that you can put some of the blame on the Cardinals. They're not faultless here. But now it's time for Jordan Walker to become a big leaguer, and that's on Jordan Walker. Same can be said for Nolan Gorman. J.J. Weatherholt, he's not in like a make-or-break season, so there's not anything you're really going to judge him off of. I think the biggest thing for Oli is it is going to be, are these guys competing hard day in, day out? Because we're not going to be judging him on lineup construction. No. We talked about this yesterday, Bradford, where BK asked me, do you care where J.J. Weatherholt hits on opening day? And I said, I don't really care because he can hit seventh, he can hit second. Anybody's out of where they probably are going to end up hitting in a contending lineup. Like Wynn's not a two-hole hitter, so I don't really care. Same with when it comes to like in-game decisions. He's not going to be pinch hitting. I mean, we just talked a little bit in the open today about what some position battles are going to be. Look at their bench. It's like Thomas Sajaci, potentially Jose Fermin, Nathan Church. Those aren't guys you're going to pinch hit for anybody with. And then on top of that, like, he's not going to be making bullpen decisions on, like, well, we're not going to judge those based on, well, he had to go to this guy to make sure they got win number, 30 so they could be 5 games above 500 for the first time this season. No, he's going to be trying to make the best moves possible while doing that. But it's not ultimately about what their win-loss record is this year. It is truly a rebuild year and just seeing what the young guys will do. So there's not a lot to judge Oli Marmol off of the traditional metrics of in-game decisions and what his record is.
It's going to be that perpetual vibe check, right? Like day in and day out, because I agree with you on that point, and it's kind of funny to think about. But guys, frankly, I do believe that after 4 seasons and 648 games under his managerial belt, we still don't know a lot about Oli Marmol when it comes to the imprint, the stamp that he can put on his own base of talent. And expanding on that a little bit more, what you have now, you basically, in spite of the fact that there is 1 year at present remaining on the contract, you actually have the ability now, if you're Oli Marmol, to kind of mold this team in the image that you would like, as far as putting in different elements into place and basically experimenting, right? We've already seen him, how adept he has been at being able to manipulate a bullpen, for instance. Now you don't have to worry about some hammer at the back end. If you want to begin the season, if you want to go consistently with the JoJo Romero, you want to flip it over to a Riley O'Brien, you can do that from week to week. From a lineup standpoint, it doesn't really matter at this point in time exactly who is hitting where, because you no longer have to worry about, I'm going to say it respectfully, the albatross that was a Nolan Arenado, making sure that you're placating him, that he's still in there on a daily basis. Paul Goldschmidt long since has been replaced. Is it really going to matter if a Herrera is hitting third, is hitting fourth? Day to day, some of the fun that is going to be had actually in the 2026 campaign is going to be about seeing the different strings that Oli Marmol can pull. And I, for one, am pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, you're just not in a position right now to look at a manager and nitpick certain decisions that lose a baseball game. I mean, you're in the experimental phase right now. Like, if you were to ask Oli, I have a pretty good feel for this, he would tell you, yeah, I'm trying to win every single game. That's the mindset you want from a manager. You don't want your manager to be like, we're just trying to get through the season. No, you're going to win, because that's the competitive edge you want around your players. But the real question is, because these are younger guys that want to win, what happens when in the beginning of June you're 20 games under 500? I mean, there's nothing to play for in that sense other than yourself. That's where Oli really comes into play, of keeping these guys' minds in it to say, like, no, there's still more to play for. If Jordan Walker, you want to be a major leaguer every day, you need to go out there and prove it. Nolan Gorman, you want to stay in the lineup, you got to go out there and prove it. That's where I think it really comes down to. Now, does that mean that if this team finishes with 70 wins, you look at Oli and say, you've got to extend them? No, I think that's going to be a real conversation that Chaim Bloom and company have to have in terms of who is Oli Marmol, how does he impact this group of players, and do we think we can find better? Because there's a difference of you saying, you could find better. That's a better manager to win now. But even next year, you're not going to be in a win-now mode. You're still going to be in that developmental stage, and that's where it really comes back to. Man, I'm just curious what some of these younger guys look like by the end of the season.
Yeah, and what I'll be curious by is, how are they going to judge? Like you mentioned, Chaim, how is he going to judge what Oli's doing? Is it based on like what Walker does? Is it based on what J.J. Weatherholt does this year? And that's where I have a tough time.
I think it's more Weatherholt than the pitchers, but even then, wouldn't you say that's on the hitting and pitching coach more than it's the manager?
He hires the hitting and pitching coach, yeah. So it's the same like when we talked about, when we had the debate on how much of this is on Monty. We talked about the defensive structure, right? Well, he hired, I guess he didn't. But he kept him on, right? He could have moved on from, if he wanted to, Mike Weber in this case, and he kept him on and had him coach the defense. So I think it's one of those. I don't know if you're going to move on to what you said, if you're going to move on from Oli Marmol at the end of the season. One, I don't know what you're looking for, because you're still looking for a manager to kind of grow with the team, a development manager. And maybe Chaim thinks there's somebody that's out there that's better for it. Oli was in your minor league system. He's been through the minor league phase. He's done just about every role on the coaching staff, first base coach, and then he was a bench coach and now the manager. I just don't understand why wait on this, right? I think Oli's a good manager, and you can't really get a good judgment on what he's going to be doing this season.
Was Chaim a part of the hiring process that brought in Alex Cora, or was he still in Tampa at that time?
I think he was part of it, but I think ownership overrode him.
I was going to say, because
ownership really liked him, and let's be honest, he was the one calling some of the shots in Boston.
Because they had Joe Madden when he was in Tampa, and he wasn't even really front office at that time with Tampa. So I was just kind of curious in terms of hiring managers, how much he has been through with that. And he took over as the general manager in, 2015? Is that correct, for Tampa Bay? Oh, no, he was vice president of baseball operations in 2016. So 2016 with Tampa Bay, they've already had that stuff. So, like I said, just kind of curious in terms of those managers. But even at those time with those teams, Boston, when Alex Cora took over, I mean, they were transitioning off of Terry Francona, and they were continuing to find ways to win. So, I don't know. It's a fascinating decision, to say the least, but I don't think anything that's going to happen this year comes down to, we're not going to bring back Oli Marmol. If they finish with 60 wins, I think you're going to be looking at it the same as if they find a way to get to 80 wins.
If they move on from Oli at the end of the year, it will say that Heim couldn't work with Oli Marmol. He just, for whatever reason, he didn't think he was the right guy, and that maybe they just didn't see eye to eye on what the direction would be. That would be my guess as to why you do it.
Yeah, or
you
feels
think
like
someone best comes of it. One guy I would keep an eye on would be Kevin Cash, because I think he was a part of that when Kevin Cash was hired.
Oh, yeah.
That would be one that I would keep an eye on in Tampa, but I don't think Kevin Cash is going anywhere. So that would be something that I don't think is going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. It's 12:31. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. So I heard the Fast Lane talking about this yesterday is it too soon to give up on the core of the Blues? Or more specifically, Jordan Kyrou. Are we, as fans, talking about trading the wrong guy? We'll get into that coming up next year on 101 ESPN.
On this season of Stupiracy, the podcast where stupidity and conspiracy collide, Riz and I take on a theory so ridiculous, you'll swear the internet has finally lost it. The claim? Helen Keller was a fraud. 14 books, 12 U.S. presidents, a global icon, and TikTok says it was all fake. So is this what happens when people get their history lessons from social media? Or is there something they don't want you to see? Stupiracy Season 2 is out now, starting with the Helen Keller conspiracy. Listen wherever you get your podcast or watch on YouTube.
Stupiracy, presented by CarStar, your auto body repair experts. Locally owned with a nationwide guarantee. Visit carstar.com.
This is always an exciting day for me personally because it's the day that Ted Drewes is officially back open. That's right. Off of Chippewa, a St. Louis tradition since 1929. It is now officially open for its 97th season. And why is that so exciting? Because it's back. That means spring is right around the corner. That means warmer weather. That means we're going to be outside spending time with family and friends. And you know I talk about this all the time. Ted Drewes is like the destination for me to go with my girls, to go with my wife. Just family traditions. Friday nights are Ferrario nights, we call it. And specifically, I'm already talking to my girls about going over there for a day date in one of these upcoming weeks. But this is what Ted Drewes is all about. It's a fourth-generation, family-run business that has been built on quality service and a love for St. Louis. And you can go out there and mix and match whatever flavors you want, and you can sit in the parking lot in the back of your car and just enjoy time together. It's also Ted Drewes' hiring season, so if you want to work at Ted Drewes and be a part of that tradition, you can check it out at teddrewes.com for additional information. All of that, by the way, you can check out their historical museum, their gift shop, which is across the parking lot. Everything is there for you for Ted Drewes, that is now open for its 97th season. Ted Drewes, real custard, real tradition. Ted Drewes, it's St. Louis.
history.
On this day back in 2003, the Blues would defeat the Philadelphia Flyers 4-3. Eric Boganicki would score shorthanded in the first period. Then Alexander Havidov would score on the power play early in the second. Scott Mellenby would follow that one up with his 19th of the year, picking up the victory in between the pipes for St. Louis. Brent Johnson stopping 20 of 23 shots.
This date in Blues history is powered by Classic Air Care.
Make your life more comfortable for all your HVAC, plumbing, and electrical needs. ClassicAirCare.com.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
Granillo goes to Washington. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling. St. Louis acquired reliever George Soriano from the Nationals on Tuesday in exchange for fellow right-hander Andre Granillo. Granillo made 14 Major League appearances last season, striking out 18 through 21 innings. Soriano, meanwhile, will turn 27 next month. More senior circuit developments. Mets shortstop Francisco Lindor undergoing surgery to address a possible stress reaction. Brave starter Spencer Schwellenbach could miss significant time because of elbow inflammation. AL-wise, Detroit reunites with Justin Verlander. Men's hockey preliminary round style. Slovakia tops Finland 4-1. This Sports Center update was powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
T-Bone, Bradford, and I are just locked in on curling right now.
Boy, the Czechs, they don't know how to curl.
I just told, it is by far the second best Olympic sporting event.
Agreed.
Out of all of them. It's men's hockey and women's hockey. I don't know if you guys caught that USA versus Canada game. Oh, my gosh. Hockey, then curling. I don't want to hear any of your other Olympic events. These two are the GOATs.
Why didn't we really recognize as much until about 10 to 15 years ago?
I have no idea.
And then it took off.
I mean, Olympic hockey has always been something I've enjoyed, and Kerb's talking about, it being kind of a youth sporting event until they started to bring in the pros. Everybody has watched the Miracle on Ice documentary on Netflix by now. That was the pinnacle of Olympic hockey, and then it just continued to grow. But I don't know why curling. I think I found it when I was young, and it's you watch it. There's just something about it. I love shuffleboard. It's something about watching these guys not only have the strategy to try and find the way to do it, but just the amount of muscle and skill it is to glide through.
I take back what I said. Hell of a shot from the Czechs right there.
Yeah, Czechs knew what they were doing.
All right, what were we going to talk about?
Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns, I'm Alex Ferrario. We're going to talk
on a curling.
We're going to talk a little bit about something I heard the Fast Lane discuss yesterday, because they were talking about, is it a bad idea to trade away Jordan Kyrou? And it kind of guided me into a different thought process. But here's the snippet yesterday of Jamie Rivers, Anthony Stalter, Kerry Davis, and Andrew Marsh.
Instead of wasting time and energy sitting there, smashing your head off the wall, trying to trade a Jordan Kyrou, why don't you try and build a team around Thomas, Kyrou, Buchne, build a better team. But here's my problem. If you trade Kyrou, you trade Thomas, never mind Buch, because I don't think you're going to be able to trade him right now. His value has dipped so much. If you trade Thomas or Kyrou, and you go get another player, where's his supporting cast? He has none, because Kyrou and Thomas are gone. So now you've got a A-list player. Who's he playing with? So my point is, instead of worrying about getting rid of those guys, find a way to get an elite player and add him to those guys.
I think everybody would agree with you on that.
Yeah, but everybody's not. They're not. Because every friggin' day I see it. It's trade Kyrou. Get rid of him. He stinks. He's a dog.
First off, tone.
Yeah, see, somebody's been spending time with BK. I hear what he's saying, but I think the reason people are reacting the way they're reacting is because they're sick of the way these seasons are going. I can only just speak for myself. This has been 4 seasons now where they have underperformed. I'm sorry, 3 seasons now where you've underperformed. No, 4 seasons. This would be the 4th, because they traded away Jordan Kyrou or they traded away Ryan O'Reilly and all those players in the 2022-2023 season, correct? That was the year that they traded O'Reilly, Tarasenko, Nola Char, and Niko Mikkola, where you finished with 81 points, and I believe they got the top 10 pick with Dalibor Dvorsky. You underperformed that season. You underperformed the following season. Now, you got 92 points, but a lot of that was because you fired Craig Berube and you brought in Drew Bannister, and they went on that hot stretch in the final month and a half of the season. Last season, you underperformed and then had to fire another coach, bring in Jim Montgomery, make that run, that miraculous run in the postseason, and you lose in Game 7 of the playoffs. And then this season, you've underperformed, and they're not firing the coach. So, again, yes, I would love to do what Jamie's talking about of just build around Jordan Kyrou, Robert Thomas, and Pavel Buchnevich. I don't think that fixes the problem. I think they tried to do that with these younger pieces and bringing in the supporting cast of Jimmy Snuggerud and Dalibor Dvorsky, but it hasn't worked. 4 seasons where these have been the core pieces of the roster that is supposed to guide you into that competitive window, and you gave them the keys to the car 3 years ago, and every single season you've underperformed. And look, I'm not putting all the blame on Jordan Kyrou. I think this is a core problem. This is not a Kyrou problem. But I believe the reason why he sees so many fans that are saying, well, why is it always Jordan Kyrou getting traded? I don't think you could trade Pavel Buchnevich, and I don't think you want to trade a Robert Thomas because you don't have anybody with the skill of the position that he plays. This is a core problem to me. And it might be the easiest one to move on from is Jordan Kyrou. I think all 3 of them are a massive reason why the Blues are where they're at. This isn't a matter of building around it. This is a matter of fixing the foundation that's broken and try and build a new foundation.
Yeah, and that's where I'm in on this is I agree with what you just said there. It's the foundation that appears to be the problem, and they are the pillars of that, right? It's the Thomas, the Kyrou, the Buches. Like, those guys have underperformed, if I'm not mistaken. Of these 4 years that we're talking about, 3 of the 4 we've been disappointed by their first halves. Like, Thomas typically picks it up in the second half along with Booch, and then Kyrou goes on a heater at some point in the year. But I feel like we have the same conversation. Well, why are the Blues not performing well? Well, their top guys aren't carrying the team. That's been the conversation for the last 3 years. And what he said, and I think this is where it just depends on what the Blues are doing. If the Blues truly believe that, hey, this is just a weird one-off season, we talked about this yesterday on the show, how many of these guys would you bank on having bounce-back seasons? If you just believe it was a weird one-off for Thomas, Kyrou, and Holloway, maybe you do believe that that's what you need to do. I would say that this has been going on for 3 years now with the St. Louis Blues, 4 if you extend it to the year where they fired or where they traded off those pieces and O'Reilly and them. That to me says you need to kind of change things up. And sometimes change is good just for change's sake. And I think that's where they are. I think you're looking at moving on from them. And this isn't what happens if you do trade Jordan Kyrou? Where are you getting that production next year? It's not a plan for what you're doing for next year. It's a plan for what the next 3 to 5 years of Blues hockey look like. And that's where reality starts to set in of, if they were to make these moves, it's them saying that the retool failed with the current core that they have, and they're ready to retool again and move closer to the Holloway, the Brobergs, the Neighbors, the Stenbergs, the Dvorskys, the Snuggeruds, and trying to find those guys that will fit in with them. And maybe they do decide Thomas belongs with that group, but maybe Kyrou, they say that's not the guy that belongs with this group. We need to capitalize while his value is still high, and we move on from him because we've got plenty of wingers and potentially drafting a winger at number 1 or 2 overall.
So let's go down that path real quick. Of let's say the Blues look at this and say, you know what, we just haven't put the right supporting cast around them. Let's go out there and let's sign a guy. Who on this free agent market do you look at and you say, you know what? That's who gets the best out of Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou and Pavel Buchnevich. Let me list some of these guys for you. You tell me yes or no.
Okay.
Patrick Laine?
No. I mean, he probably would be awesome with Thomas, but he's a mess.
I mean, he's not doing it with Nick Suzuki
That's
right
fair.
now. Kevin Hayes? Guys want to go down that path again?
For real?
Nick
I want to
Schmaltz?
say no. Schmaltz.
Who's going to be 30 years old, by the way, and probably command about $8+ million.
No.
Evander Kane?
No.
J.G. Pajot?
No. I like the player, but no.
Alex Tuck?
No.
I mean, like, this is the free agent market you're talking about here.
By the way, like, going into free agency, Army's talked about this in the past, they would be operating from behind on a lot of teams in the market, right? It's twofold. 1, players want to go play for markets that don't have the income tax. 2, and probably the most important one, that probably should have been number 1, is they want to go play for a winner. You can't sell right now that you're going to be a winner.
Yeah.
Look at where you're the second worst team in the NHL.
Yeah.
So it's hard to sell this idea to free agents of, well, hey, come here, you're the missing piece for us. You probably got to pay the loser's tax, which I talked about yesterday about the Pittsburgh Pirates and what they're doing. So, yeah, I don't see it in free agency. I don't see that a fix to the problem within a year.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And that's why I think you have to at least consider Jordan Kyrou as a piece that you're moving on from. It's why I still am saying you have to be listening on Robert Thomas. You don't have to pull the trigger. You're asking for the moon, which we talked about with Kerbs when he was here in studio. You ask for the moon, and if someone says, I will give you the moon, I will give you the Godfather offer, you have to seriously consider it, to consider moving on from this core that has not worked out.
We just got this text. Let me see who the number was. I just deleted out of it. Hold on. We got a text that's from the 314 that said Armstrong didn't build around Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou, bring in star players and not young, unproven players. That's the other thing. Go back and look through those free agent classes and tell me who you were bringing in that uplifted your roster. Johnny Gaudreau, God rest his soul, who passed away. I mean, were you going to go pay, what did he make? $9 million for a guy in a flat cap in the 2023 free agency period? Alex Killorn, Jason Zucker. I mean, the 2024 free agency period. Steven Stamkos, has that worked out? Tyler Toffoli for the San Jose Sharks.
And the other thing, they thought they had those guys, and like they thought Thomas was going to be that guy. This is where you have to determine if the build went wrong. Is it Thomas is the reason the build went wrong? And if it's not, I'm still open minded to the idea of keeping him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So like you're on the side of you would keep Robert Thomas,
yeah,
right? Like would you listen to him on his offers or no?
I would listen to offers. I'm listening to offers on everybody because I think the core is problem. If Montreal and the proposed trade offer that the fan texted in that we talked about with Kerbs of Michael Haig, another prospect and a first-round pick for Robert Thomas. I'd listen to that because I think the bigger issue here is you need to shift the core. This isn't about Kyrou or Thomas being a bad player. You need to shift the core to a younger group of players because the guys that you put the pressure on to say, here's the keys to the convertible, drive us to the promised land. Guys, they're averaging 2.5 goals per game this season. And, I mean, Kyrou has been healthy for, what, all but 10 of those games? Pavel Buchnevich has been there. Robert Thomas has been injured all season. So, I mean, sure, if you want to listen to it, but I don't know what that looks like when he's healthy. Last season, you were the bottom half of the league in goals per game before the Four Nations break. The year prior, bottom half of the league in goals for per game and a bottom 10 power play. Like, one, you're not going to throw $9 million at a free agent to make this team better. Two, the guys that were supposed to carry them forward have not carried them forward. They've kept them in the same spot.
Yeah, and I think that's why you have to have the conversation of, are you willing to break up the core?
Yeah.
And again, I don't think that's everybody, right? I don't think you're trading all three guys. I don't even think you're trading two of the three. I heard JR say this day on TMA. I think if you do it, you're probably picking one guy that you move on from and hope that there's almost, as Mike's brought this up to us on a Friday before, you just kind of need that shock to kind of hit the room maybe, right? Where if you move on from Kyrou, it is now whoa, did they really just move on from a piece of what was supposed to be the core? And I think that would be a decent thing for the St. Louis Blues. They have to be open-minded to anything. When you're 31st in the NHL, that typically doesn't happen as just a blip on the radar, as we've talked about in the past. BK had the numbers. When you have this bad a goal differential, you're this bad at this point in the season, most teams don't bounce back and suddenly are a team that's a playoff or Stanley Cup contender the next year. They're typically bad for a couple of years. So basically what that tells you is this core is wrong. This core maybe peaked in a 20-game sample where they got extremely hot. This core, for the most part, at its ceiling so far, has been a fringe playoff team.
Yeah.
It's time to at least consider moving on from those pieces and not think about what does it look like for next year, but more of what can we do to make this better in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I guess I'm just a little surprised at some of the people, like 618 just said, sounds like it's what the Sabres typically do. They just kick the can down the road to get younger. Let's go down the hypothetical path of what everybody is saying of you build around these guys. Let's say they don't trade any of these pieces and they say, no, you know what, this was a bad year for us. We think they'll all bounce back next season, so we're going to go down that path. Who are you bringing in that makes this roster better? You've got $14 million in cap space, mind you.
Some of that's going to Holloway.
Well, yeah, 20, by the way, if Torrey Krug, he will be on LTIR, so that opens up to 6.5. Let's say you're able to trade away Justin Falk at $6.5 million. So you got about $27 million to work with. You're right, Holloway's going to need some of that money. You're probably going to pay a couple of others. Let's say you got $20 million to work with. You're bringing back the exact same roster minus a Justin Falk. Who are you going into the free agent market to sign and say this makes us better? And on top of that, who are you trading from this roster to go out there and acquire and say this guy uplifts our team?
Yeah.
I don't believe that player is out there. I think if I'm the Blues and I'm honest with myself and say, look, this has been 4 years of these guys not living up to what we needed them to be. We've got to cut the cord at some point and say, let's shift this core to Neighbors and Snuggerud and Dvorsky and Holloway and Jiricek and Broberg, 24, 23 years and younger. Yeah, it's probably what teams have done in the past, but if you don't have the right pieces that can guide you forward, I think you have to make some adjustments.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. I don't see the short-term solution to where this would work out. And that's not even just speaking of free agency, right? That's bringing in a top pick. It's going out and signing guys. You need a star. And that's what they need. And right now, your hope would be that you can use some of these pieces from Kyrou that you can make happen. Maybe you get someone that's there, the first-round pick that you make. I'm open to the idea that you move Kyrou, you get some pieces in return, and you hope that with Thomas paired with the first or second overall pick, it ends up working out for him, and you're able to kind of turn it around a little quicker. I just don't see the solution coming here in the next year.
Yeah, I don't either. Marshy just sent a text in that said, I'm going to offer sheet Leo Carlson or Jason Robertson. Yeah, that's absolutely a path you can go. You are going to be giving up 4 of your next first-round picks, though. Because if you offer sheet, I believe, and I don't know what the compensation is, but I believe if you offer sheet more than $9 million or $10 million, it's either 3 or 4 of your first-round picks.
I mean, you could potentially trade for Robertson, and then you can lock him up. Like
absolutely.
I think what's going to happen with Robertson is he's not going to get offer sheet. Dallas is going to trade him somewhere and get assets.
Probably. Or Dallas says, you know what, we're going to try one more year with him and see if we can win a cup. And if we don't, then we'll trade him. We'll trade his rights in the offseason when he's a pending free agent. All right, Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll go back into the Cardinals conversation. Are the Detroit Tigers the team that the Cardinals should be trying to build? We'll discuss that. More likely to happen in about 30, but coming up next, the Junk Drawer here on 101 ESPN.
Saturday, it's All-Star Saturday night. Coverage starts at 4. Your home for the NBA is 101 ESPN. Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Let's open it up. The Junk Drawer with BK and Ferrario.
Let's dive into the junk drawer along with Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. T-Bone, what do you got for us today?
Guys, real quick, do me a favor so you don't have to do this off the top of your head. Pull up a map of the United States. Okay? That way I don't...
Wish I had a picture of your apartment, because there'd be one up on your wall behind your couch.
You got to have a map of the U.S. in your family room.
All right, I got mine up.
Okay. What states would you consider to be in the Midwest?
Okay, in the Midwest. So Missouri is one of them.
And real quick, the reason why I am bringing this up, I saw this from I think it was the Wall Street Journal, or someone did a survey of people in states and has asked, do you believe you are in the Midwest? Okay. In Missouri, for example, 95% of people said yes.
Makes sense.
That you should. I think I would go Iowa, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska.
KU, regrettably, no doubt about it. You said Iowa. Okay, Arkansas. Those are the obvious ones. Yeah, to me, those are purely Midwestern.
I think Colorado and Wyoming would be West Coast for me, even though I know like they're not West Coast, but they're Western.
Yeah, I agree.
And then I guess I could put Illinois on there, but like I feel like Chicago is East.
Yeah, I would call Illinois there because they're Central Time Zone. Wisconsin,
which I'm fine with that.
I would call
Tennessee and Kentucky. I guess you should throw into here as well. Like Indiana's weird for me because I look at Indiana as kind of like North more than I look at it as Midwest.
I consider it Midwest, and 92% of people in Indiana said that
makes
they believe
sense.
they're in the Midwest.
Yeah, I think that's square because Columbus would be East.
I'm a little surprised Tennessee, only 10% of people said they believe they're in the Midwest.
That's a little surprising.
I would call that in the Midwest. I would definitely think Kentucky as well. Only 31% of people in Kentucky.
Kentucky and Tennessee's weird though. It's like you have to cut it in half and say like the left side of Kentucky and Tennessee would be like, yeah, we're Midwest, and then the right side would be like, no, we're the East.
Now let's get to the fascinating ones of this.
Oh yeah, let's see who the dumb people are.
Would you call Ohio the Midwest?
That's ridiculous.
78% of people call themselves that they are in the Midwest in the state of Ohio.
I'd call them Northeast.
Me too.
What about Michigan?
North. What are you doing?
80. Well, there's Northeast. It's Midwest, East. What? West Pacific.
I mean,
what
I guess.
are the 3 time zones? Mountain. That's what I was thinking.
But I mean, Texas doesn't consider themselves central. I mean, Texas would be like south.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know,
that's fair.
So I look at Minnesota. Minnesota considers themselves a northern state. Michigan's there as well.
86% of people said they are in the Midwest.
Get the hell out of here.
That's all Big Ten country. We know this. We know it.
Get the hell out of here.
I got to know what you're thinking in Pennsylvania. If you are part of the 9% that say we are in the Midwest,
you've never seen a map before, is my guess.
If you're in Wyoming, we really got to have a conversation because Wyoming, 54% of people believe they are in the Midwest.
You've got to be kidding me.
Wyoming, I guess I can get. I look at it as like I would consider myself as the West. But your mountains.
Yeah, at best, I would say South Dakota, North Dakota, I would give, maybe, as Midwest.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't lean that they're in the Midwest.
No, I think South Dakota, North Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, to me, that's the West.
That's all Big Sky. That's Big Sky territory.
But Colorado, 42% said they believe they are in the Midwest.
That's
Oklahoma, 66%.
You're in mountains,
we can
dog.
go back and forth on. Idaho, 25%, as I mentioned. Montana, 30%.
Hold on, what does Idaho think?
Idaho, 25% believe they are in the Midwest.
Oh, my God.
I would say they're on the West Coast.
No, there's no on that one, Bradford. That's just dumb.
More so than West Coast, though. You can't say strictly West Coast.
Can I just say I'm in the West?
Okay, that's
if I'm
fine.
Boise,
Northwest, there.
Yes.
How's that?
If I'm Boise, I'm a couple hundred miles away from Oregon, who is on the West Coast.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, so I saw this and I found it interesting because, for the most part, I can agree. The ones that had over 85% were your Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan. Okay, I can get that. Ohio was at 78%. And then when you get into some of these where West Virginia, 13% are saying they're in the Midwest, I'm like, I don't think so. I think you're on the East Coast.
Can we talk more about the Pacific
East.
Northwest? That just makes me happy. And it's easy, is it not, to identify that slice of the country?
Boom. Dreaming of a vacation?
Yeah, I was going to say, somebody wants to go to the Pacific Northwest.
Hey, somebody can revert to honeymoon thoughts, right? Nothing wrong with that. Come on now.
Where's Alaska fall?
No one voted Midwest.
No, nobody put. Oh God, could you imagine one person being like, "Yeah, I consider myself Midwest."
I look on the map, we're in a little square that's over there to the.
That was what I was going to say. Somebody looks at the map and says, "Well, we would be Southwest, right? Because we're below California."
Yeah,
it's weird. Alaska, right next to Mexico on the map. That's so crazy how that works. Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. So the Cardinals are building, if you were to ask the DeWitts, but should they be building like this team? We'll discuss next here on 101 ESPN.
This Friday morning, 101 ESPN invites you to participate in the 26th annual Hardee's Rise and Shine fundraiser. Stop by any participating Hardee's in the bi-state area this Friday morning and grab a sausage biscuit or egg biscuit for the special price of just $1. 100% of the proceeds of all funds collected will help heat up St. Louis, supporting people in need in both Missouri and Illinois. Help heat up the St. Louis region this Friday morning at any participating Hardee's. Find more at 101ESPN.com.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Classic Air Care here in the month of February. You know how this works in St. Louis. It's warm, it's cold, it's going to keep going back and forth like this, which means that HVAC system is going to be getting its work. And if you've got an older unit, you might be having the conversation with your husband, your wife, saying, I think we're going to have to get one sooner rather than later. This was me and my wife, by the way, last year, where it was like 25 years old, and I'm like, I don't know if we're going to make it another summer. Now is the time to call Classic Air Care, because February, it's the best month to get a great deal on a new HVAC system. You can have somebody come out, or you could find out what the price would be on their website at classicaircare.com. More on that in just a bit. They've got financing options, and right now, if you purchase a new HVAC system, they're going to throw in a free water heater for you. Plus, they've got humidifiers that can help you out in this dry winter season. All of it for you over at Classic Air Care. I mentioned their website. They've got an installation quote where you go to classicaircare.com, hit instant HVAC system quote. You answer 4 questions. You get a price right there in the browser from Classic Air Care. They've got 100 vans out on the road, which means they're going to get back to you within 24 hours. 5-star service. It's the company that I've been using since 2016. Classic Air Care and classicaircare.com.
WXOS HD1 East St. Louis, 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. We're right back to more of it. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
So the Cardinals are in build mode. Or if you ask the DeWitts, no, that's what you ask the DeWitts. If you ask T-Bone Bradford and I, we would say it rebuild mode. But either way, the Cardinals are building towards something. And I think everybody in baseball would say, well, why can't we build like the Dodgers? Because you don't have the payroll like the Dodgers. But you look around Major League Baseball and you try and find some similarities in how teams have built. And you say, I want my team to build that way. Like hockey, for example. Like I kind of look at what the Minnesota Wild have pulled off and say, man, it'd be nice to build that way. When Doug Armstrong made the comps, he said build like the LA Kings, to where they turned it around pretty quickly. But T-Bone, you brought this up in the office a little bit ago. I want to give you credit where credit is due. And you said that the Detroit Tigers are the team that they should build like.
Yeah, I will give credit to the Fast Lane because I heard the Fast Lane talking about this yesterday. And it is an interesting one to take a look at and see how the Tigers are constructed, because they were in the news yesterday when they re-signed Justin Verlander on a 1-year contract. And they've recently been in the news because they went out and signed Framber Valdez. But you look at like the Tigers lineup, for example. They've got some interesting pieces. They've got about 4 to 5 guys that will project to be about 10 to 20% above league average. And some of those guys are high first-round picks, like Spencer Torkelson, #1 overall selection in the 2020 MLB draft. Riley Green, who's a pretty solid player, taken 5th overall in the 2019 draft. And then you look at their pitching, of course, they've got arguably the best pitcher in baseball in Tarek Skubal, who was a steal in the 9th round when they selected him. And when I heard the Fast Lane talking about this, I am one that's more lower on what the Tigers are as a team. I find it interesting the way they've tried to build this offseason, but I don't know that they're the team that I would highlight as the one that I would want to be the team that represents what your build is around. Because I look at their lineup and go, it's kind of what the Cardinals did with their previous group of kind of young players that get to the big leagues. Everybody gets up and they're like 10 to 20% above league average. Like you look at the Lars Nootbaars, Brendan Donovan, those guys were 10 to 15, 20% above league average. It's kind of what you hope Mason Wynn becomes. I think it'd be a success if J.J. Weatherholt becomes that, and I kind of think that's where he's going to end up being. I don't see superstar potential in him just because I'm not sure you can be a superstar on the hit tool alone. I don't think he's got the power to do it. And then I see the way that the Tigers built out the rotation. It was basically what the Cardinals would have to do. Pitching never really developed, so what do? You go out and you sign Framber Valdez, you go out and you sign Jack Flaherty, you go out and sign Justin Verlander to kind of fill the gaps in that rotation. Yes, you had the huge success story in Skubal, and your hope if you're the Cardinals building this way is that's what Liam Doyle becomes. I actually would say, to me, the team that I would look at as the one that I would want to build around from the AL Central, it's going to sound weird, but it almost would be the Guardians for me.
Yeah.
Because they've become a pitching pipeline to where they are constantly churning out pitchers. I think that's what they're hoping to do, and it's no coincidence they went out and got Rob Cerfolio from the Cleveland Guardians. You hope to be turning out pitching like we saw from Cleveland, but the most important part that Cleveland did, they got their superstar, and they've kept him. Mm-hmm. And that will be the most important part, to where if I am wrong on Weatherholt and he does become a stud, it's not just about capitalizing on what J.J. Weatherholt is in the 6 years through the pre-arb and arbitration system. It's about keeping him, which will be one of the biggest questions for the Cardinals when they find that guy. Can they keep him like they used to do back in the early 2000s when they had, I don't know, this guy named Albert Pujols, who were they able to keep around for a while before he eventually left? That's why I look at the Guardians as the one for me.
Sorry to cut you off there, T-Bone, but I really like that comp. I mean, like, look, I look at Detroit, and, I mean, to say they build like Detroit, sure, give me a Tarek Skubal, and I'd love to build.
A little bit of both.
Yeah,
it's going to have to be the position player, the complementary pieces the Tigers have built, while also stealing the superstar from the Guardians build, and then having the pitching pipeline of what the Guardians had.
It's kind of why I look at the Seattle Mariners, and I mean, easier said than done, but like they found their star in Julio Rodriguez in terms of the international draft, if I'm not mistaken. You know, you find Cal Raleigh, who's kind of a diamond in the rough. I don't know if anybody expected him to be what he is. There's your stars in the bats, where it's not like you're drafting first overall. You're spending money in the international pool, and you're finding a guy deeper in the draft, but their pitching pipeline is what makes them go, right? Like, they didn't even trade their top 2 prospects when they traded for Brendan Donovan, because they have a pipeline and they stick to it. They've got 5 legit guys, and only one of those guys was acquired via trade in Luis Castillo. I like your Guardians one because they're the same, where they've got a pipeline and they found that star and they kept them there. I would imagine Seattle's probably going to do the same thing. I don't want to build to where you've got a Cy Young candidate every single year and that's the guy. I want to build a pipeline. I'd love to have the Cy Young candidate, but if you could give me 3 number 2s and just continue to churn through those, and even Seattle's got a number 1 dude in Logan Gilbert or Bryce Miller, but they just keep finding more and more pieces. But all of this comes to, you got to find the star bat.
Yeah, and pipeline is the key word there, because we'll get into the offense here in just a second, but I don't think it's a coincidence here that when you're talking about Detroit, or maybe even shooting it over to Cleveland, you identify the wealth, the glut. You have the quality and the quantity when it comes to that rotation, to your staff as a whole, because the hope is that not too far into the future, you have a Liam Doyle basically being that ace, carrying the freight for you, but you have to maximize the high draft picks you think you're conceivably going to get over the next few years, given that your major league prospects, your chances, your records we're talking about here aren't going to be that great, that superior. But year after year, Cleveland and Detroit, those organizations, not only did they hit on the picks, but they committed to going in that direction and then supplemented that talent. For the most part, there were exceptions with the bats. Ramirez is the linchpin. We understand that at Progressive Field. I think Detroit, it's a little harder to still characterize what that organization is from an offensive standpoint, because as solid as rock solid, Riley Green's an all-star, okay? He's a multiple-time all-star. But you're still waiting to see whether that number 2, that sidekick, that guy who's comparable to him year in and year out, is Spencer Torkelson, because despite the draft pick status, the former number 1 overall selection that he was, let's not pretend as if everything is solved along that avenue either. After August 25th last season, the guy only mustered 3 home runs. The power, it has definitely gone through the ebbs and the flows. They're still trying to identify and figure out what he is as a potent bat. Dare I say it's almost easier to trend in that direction or commit to going pitching first and foremost, and then if you can get a guy, i.e. Weatherholt offensively, build around him.
And I think your Mariners one, Alex, is probably a better one than the Guardians. Because when you look at what they've done, they've got the pitching pipeline the same way that the Guardians have done it, but they've done it at an even better level to where Gilbert, Brian Wu, those guys are higher-end pitchers than what Cleveland has. And Cleveland's got some good guys, don't get me wrong, but that is at a higher end.
Right.
And then they also had the stars that they developed first and then supplemented them. Like you mentioned, Julio, Cal Raleigh, they had those 2 guys, and then they looked at the rest of the roster and said, okay, we don't have the guys with them. So then you see how they slowly pieced it together. They went out and they got Randy Arozarena. They went out and then acquire Josh Naylor last year at the deadline and Suarez at the deadline, and then replace them this year by trading for a Brendan Donovan.
Yeah.
That's probably the team that you're looking at saying, that's kind of what the Cardinals used to do, right? They develop. I know they seem to think they've always done this with the drafting and develop. They did it with Albert. They did it with Albert where they drafted him, and then they supplemented him by trading for the other guys around him. That's probably the build, and they had the pitching pipeline to do it. That's the build, I think, if you're the Cardinals, you're looking to replicate, and especially on that pitching side. And that's why they hired, I can't remember his name, the guy from Seattle that was running the pitching department there. He's now here in St. Louis. Pierpont, I think was his name.
Yeah.
That's why they went out and got him to try and replicate that. I like the Mariners one. I think that's the better build of what you're targeting if you're the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think they did this right in terms of bringing in minds for organizations that you're trying to build around, because again, everybody sees the Dodgers as a dominant force, but let's say in a hypothetical world we do see a salary cap after this lockout and everybody's kind of in the same playing field. I think Seattle's one of those teams that, and Cleveland as well, they're going to be those teams that are always in that spotlight, maybe not the brightest of the bright, but they're in that spotlight because every time one thing pops up against them, they've got another thing to plug that hole. There's a difference between plugging the hole with a cork or plugging the hole with just a paper towel.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I feel like the Cardinals have tried to do in the past, where, man, Seattle knows that if we lose Bryce Miller or Brian Wu, got 2 other guys that might be able to come up, but guess what will always be there? The stars that we found and didn't have to go out there and be bad to get the first overall pick or go out there and sign via free agency.
And if you look at the teams that have gone on these sustained runs that are more in that middle tier market, I would call it, it typically starts on the pitching pipeline is where it starts, because you mentioned the Dodgers. You can't build like the Dodgers if you're the Cardinals, right? You can't even build like what the Phillies are doing. The Phillies have a bigger payroll and can really flex their might. Same with the Mets and some of those teams. But the teams that really go on these sustained runs, it starts with the pitching pipeline. And Seattle would be that. Cleveland, when they had their moment in the AL Central, they were that. Like, I think that is where it all starts. The only one that I would say wasn't that was maybe Atlanta. Yeah. In the first couple of years when they had it with Acuna and Ozzie Albies, they were kind of the one that didn't have the pitching pipeline. They had good pitcher and Strider. I don't think they had as much behind him, but that would be the one-off for me.
Yeah, I like it. But that's, you know, it all comes down to the draft process and finding the right pieces and evaluating them. And it's why I don't know if I'd look at the Cardinals, like we talked about earlier in the show, as losers, because, man, they restocked that pitching pipeline compared to what it's been in the past. And now at least they've got some interesting pieces with potentially more to come with some high draft picks in this upcoming draft, and then obviously whatever takes place this season. Tanner Hendricks and Bradford Bruns, I'm Alex Ferrario. Coming up at 15, we're going to talk Jordan Binnington at the Olympics. Expected he'll play tomorrow for Team Canada. Is he the guy, the player that's under the most pressure of any players at the Olympics? But coming up next, more likely to happen. You give us two scenarios. We'll tell you which one's more likely here on BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
You can now watch 101 ESPN live on our Air Alliance Team Studio Cams. Catch every show live on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com. 101 ESPN Studio Cams.
Presented by the Air Alliance Team Heating and Cooling. Getting the job done quickly, correctly, 100% of the time.
.101 ESPN has your shot to score a 4-pack of passes to the St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show, taking place Friday, February 20th through Sunday, February 22nd at the Americas Center. It's a great time for the whole family, including the Bobbers in a Boat giveaway, where you can guess the number of bobbers for your chance to win a huge prize. Find all the info and your chance to win free passes for the St. Louis Boat and Fishing Show, February 20th through the 22nd, right now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 app. This is exactly where you want to be, listening to us. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. What's more likely to happen? They'll figure it out. BK and Ferrario's most likely to happen.
feels good to do that one. I haven't done that since Thursday. 314-399. No, Wednesday. Because we had Believe It or Not on Thursday. It's good to be back, ladies and gentlemen.
It was the curling that prompted you.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's good to be back for 4 days, and then I'll be off for another 6. Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. It is BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN, and it's time to play More Likely to Happen. You send us 2 scenarios. We will tell you which is more likely to happen. Let's piggyback off the conversation we had a little bit ago about the Blues. More likely to happen, guys. The Blues get back to contending in 3 years by trading away Kyrou and Thomas. The Blues make the playoffs next year with Kyrou and Thomas on the roster.
I'll go more likely they're back to contention in 3 to whatever amount of years it is. I think we've seen with this group of Blues players, their ceiling is a fringe playoff team. So I wouldn't even bet that they could get there next year. They might be able to. If the West ends up being down like it has been this year, they might be able to. I wouldn't bet on that, though. I would bet that they end up being kind of what we've seen in years past. So I would say more likely it is that they're able to get back there in 3+ years when they move on from Kyrou and Thomas if they do that.
Just to add that real quick, Bradford, before you answer, the part for me when somebody says, and I'm not saying you, it's just I've heard reaction of like, well, the Western Conference can't be this good again next year. I actually think this is the worst it's going to be for the next few years. Like, Colorado's not taking a step back. Minnesota's not taking a step back. Dallas isn't taking a step back. Edmonton's still got McDavid and Draisaitl. Vegas is going to just go after the best players available. So now you're talking about 3 more playoff spots.
I would think that the Sharks just continue to rise with Celebrini and what they've got.
Utah,
2.
Anaheim.
Oh, yeah.
That's 3. Chicago, who has been somewhat competitive.
And maybe we're wrong. Maybe someone does surprise us and steps back. But if you told me today, like,
all of those
Sharks are better next year compared to this year, my bet would be, yeah, they'll be better.
Yeah, because, I mean, Seattle's sitting in a playoff spot right now. The 3-4 teams that I just talked about for those wild cards, all of those teams aren't even at the top of where they want to be with the prospects. Sorry, Bradford.
No, this is true. It's weird to assert that you almost have to give yourselves that 2 to 3 year window to say not only are we going to be competing once again, but in a real position, a tangible position to win. So I'm more likely to go in that direction too, because I no longer understand, I no longer know what the ceiling is, if the ceiling exists with Thomas, Kyrou, etc. At some point, something has to give.
All right, T-Bone, what do you got?
Guys, more likely to happen. I can't remember if they get a medal on this event I'm about to bring up, but I think they do. More likely to happen. USA wins / gets a gold at the World Baseball Classic this year, or USA Hockey wins gold at the Olympics.
I would say it's more likely that USA wins at the World Baseball Classic, only because the playing field is not as heavy. Like, I think Japan is the only one that we're talking about in this position that's going to give them a run for the money.
It'll be a little interesting. I don't know if they got the pitching for it.
Team USA, although they've got some really fun players, this is not like it's going to be them in Canada tournament. I mean, Finland just lost. Finland's got a good roster. Slovakia just impressed some people by beating Finland. And then you've got Sweden, who I know people are saying Canada and USA. I would be saying Canada, Sweden, then USA, because I think Sweden is going to be dangerous. So I'll say it's more likely in the World Baseball Classic.
Let me go down the baseball road as well, because as much as I am looking forward to, I know you guys are as well, the inevitable rematch perhaps between Canada and the U.S. on the hockey side, everybody is talking about how for the WBC, USA has without question built its best ever staff, right? You have all the complementary pieces on offense. Thank you very much, insurance as well, for guaranteeing that, honestly, so many of these other nations don't necessarily have the biggest of guns. And when push comes to shove as well, Tanner, if you have that rematch on the baseball side too, Shohei isn't throwing.
Yeah.
So that works.
Yeah, I think it's U.S. in the World Baseball Classic. I mean, the team that Mark DeRosa and them have assembled is impressive, and that's not to take anything away from the Team USA that's going to be at the Olympics. But Alex is right. It's just a deeper field at the Olympics than I think it is at the WBC.
Bradford?
Guys, stick with me here. A little bit of anatomy that we have to cover and more likely to happen.
We go.
I don't
We're
do
doing
anatomy.
science.
It's all right, Tanner. It's still your wheelhouse because it's baseball, okay? I never thought that we would talking about hamate. We would be talking about hamate-related procedures so much, but not only today do you have Corbin Carroll and Francisco Lindor undergoing surgery on their respective hands. Jackson Holliday tomorrow for Baltimore as well, but I want to talk about those first 2 teams, okay? The New York Mets and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Which of those teams is more likely to still make the playoffs, qualify for the postseason, despite these injuries?
Say the teams again.
New York Mets with Lindor or Diamondbacks with Carroll? Which one makes it to the postseason?
I would lean Mets because their division's easier. I don't know who's winning the NL East this year because we talked about this. I'm not a big fan of what the Mets have done this offseason. Philly's probably taking a step back as Wheeler's going to be recovering from his surgery, and who knows if he's the same guy. And I don't know what to make of the Braves. I'm not sure the Braves are going to be very good. They don't have much pitching either. So I would say it's Mets. The Diamondbacks, they got to get in as a wild card because, newsflash, they're not beating the Dodgers for the NL West.
I mean, who's the other? So Ketel Marte would be the guy, but who's the star without Corbin Carroll?
It's your stud, right? Perdomo? You don't believe?
Perdomo.
Hell out of there with
there
Perdomo.
He is.
But like Juan Soto or Ketel Marte plus the pitching staff, I think I would take Juan Soto and the pitching staff.
Something honestly just tells me San Diego's going to take a step back this season. I'm expecting an ascent from somebody, a young stud like a Jordan Lawler out in the desert. Paul Goldschmidt returning. You know what? That last part, okay, it's in the narrative. It's convenient. But I actually think that Arizona does have more guns in the rotation as well. I'll actually take Diamondbacks. I don't like the Mets philosophy whatsoever this offseason. I just don't. I don't buy it. It's all over the place. It's discordant. It's jarring. It doesn't make any sense. It feels like just throwing money at the problem without fixing anything.
You guys know I said this last. It's very discording. That's what I said about the Mets. That's how I labeled them.
Discordant?
Yeah. I
need to enunciate.
I'm just making an ass of myself. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 314. More likely to happen, Kyrou plays his whole career in St. Louis or Nootbaar plays his whole career in St. Louis?
Oh, boy.
Oh, I got to go Kyrou there because I
do too.
I don't see Nootbaar playing his whole career as a Cardinal. I think he's a guy that when you're in a rebuild, he definitely is someone that you're looking to trade if he bounces back. Kyrou, the Blues could easily just say, you know what, he had a down year, and they decide to keep him and say he was not a part of the problem. They trade somebody else from the core.
The contract still plays. But it'll do so for multiple years. Kyrou is more likely.
From the 636, guys, Arizona has a bona fide superstar at third base. Anybody know who that is?
Yeah, I know. It's Arenado. He's not a superstar anymore.
Watch out, Bradford.
He's not even starting.
From Medic 2007, more likely to happen, the Blues re-sign Oscar Sundqvist or trade Shen, Thomas, and Binner. I say re-sign Sundqvist. I see a scenario where they trade Oscar Sundqvist and then re-sign him in the offseason. If a player loves where he plays, and if you move him, he might come back for the right deal. And if you're Oscar Sundqvist, you know kind of where you're at in your career. You've dealt with a lot of injuries. You are basically superhuman, but you're not as nimble as you used to be. So, I mean, look, when you find a team that values what you provide, even if you're the 12th or 13th forward, you stay in that place if you love the city.
See, it's funny. I actually would lean the trades that you said there.
Shen, Thomas, and Binner?
Yeah, and I don't know that they're moving Thomas at the deadline just because of how complicated it will be with his deal.
All three.
I'm not convinced Sonny's back next year. I mean, they just claimed Jack Finley, who is younger, feels like a guy that would slot into that fourth line role.
Totally.
And Sonny's the one guy on the fourth line that's not gotten the contract extension yet. Walker did, Torpo did. I could see where they just move on from Sundqvist because of what you said, age and the injuries he's dealt with in the past.
Because you listed three guys having to go away, go out, I will lean towards Sonny here, say that he basically does the David Perron tour, third separate duty. Somehow, some way, that's how it goes.
More likely to happen, Jordan Binnington wins gold or Philip Broberg wins gold?
Oh.
I don't know what the fields are. I would put money on Canada versus Sweden in the gold medal game.
Yeah, I will say more likely Binnington wins gold because I just think Canada's a deeper roster. And what they didn't say there is that Binnington had to be between the pipes during the gold medal game.
There you go.
I'm not convinced that he will be the guy.
Dare you?
The run begins tomorrow. Binnington with the gold. You know that.
And he's in net with the gold, too, right?
He's got a hat on.
Yeah. He's the game
It might
MVP.
be backwards.
He's got the backwards goalie.
Yeah.
The Mike McKenna, as it's better known. Final one here. More likely to happen. Fighting Illini make it to the national championship. Mizzou wins a game in the tournament.
Oh, definitely Illinois gets the national championship.
What if I did SLU wins a game?
Then I would say SLU. I think SLU can win a basketball game in the NCAA tournament. I'm still not convinced, as much as Bradford tells me that they're getting more balanced. That Mizzou's a team that's a tournament team. And if they get to the tournament, I don't care who they're playing, I'm telling you right now, I'm betting against them. It's like every year, I know every year the Steelers will make the playoffs when they had Mike Tomlin there. Every year I knew I was going to bet against them of whoever they were playing in the playoffs. I feel that way about this Missouri Tigers team.
You weren't inspired by that Drake outcome last season? No? You weren't feeling that one?
I still have my Drake sweatshirt.
Yeah,
Should I wear it tomorrow after they lose to A&M?
Hell yeah. Bring it.
Don't look at me with those eyes. Don't you look at me with those eyes, Tanner.
But BK's not here. It's not even worth it.
Fair enough. Hey, no, seriously.
I heard him more than BK.
You're telling me Illinois has to get all the way to Indianapolis Final Four or Missouri wins a game?
Yeah.
All right, fine. You know what? I'll take the bait. Because here's what I'm going to say. This season, in the event that Mizzou actually qualifies for the NCAA tournament, which it will, on record, I will go down that road again, is equipped underneath at least to be able to go up against more of the interiors, more of the front lines you will see in a physical tournament situation. After 40 minutes, you could prevail with a W. I think it's more likely than Illinois winning, 4 games? It would take 4 games, 4 straight to get to that point?
Gates couldn't beat Drake and Princeton.
I know
Drake
it's convenient. There we go.
Princeton.
Yep. We'll bag on Dennis Gates repeatedly. That's what we do in this market. It's what we do in this region. I understand he can't coach. He can only recruit. He has to win through the portal. I understand.
Sure he can recruit.
It sounds like you're talking about Drinkwitz.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, Drink's at least won some football games.
You know what's weird?
It's like having BK here.
I enjoy watching BK suffer and be upset. I don't know if I like that with Bradford.
I like watching Mizzou fans.
The blood pressure did go up a bit,
It
right?
bothers me, like internally when he gets mad. It's like when you and I fought that one day.
It's
It's
throwing
like,
out some big words at us.
hey, well, that's true too, and then he makes me feel incompetent. So look at that one. We're incompetent, Bradford. Watch out now.
I love those multi-syllabic words, buddy.
I found a discount.
What did you just say?
Mine was at the dollar store. $1 word of the day toilet paper. It doesn't come with as big of words as Bradford. He's Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. Tanner Hendrickson. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up in 15. Which, by the way, check that clock. We got back on it. We'll get the BK and Ferrario rewind. But coming up next is Jordan Binnington under the most pressure in the Olympics. I think we all know what the answer is, but I got to yell at Dom for a little bit. We'll get to that next here on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley, St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
Look, Underdog is the place to be for all of the action now with NFL season over. Boy, there's still so much you can get in on over on the Underdog app, whether it's NBA or if you're like me, of course, the Olympic hockey action starts up today, which means I'm headed over to the Underdog app and I'm checking out tomorrow's game between Canada and Czechia. First of all, when I click on it, I got a $5 bonus entry, which this is why you need to be using the Underdog app for those promos that drop. But I put my picks together. I'm going higher on Nathan McKinnon goals goals, higher on David Pasternak goals, and higher on shots on goal for Macklin Celebrini. I put all of those three together with my bonus entry. I could win up to $37. It's super easy to do over on Underdog. You just pick your favorite players, favorite stats, go higher or lower, win up to 5,000 times your cash. So download the Underdog app today and use promo code BKO to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO. Underdog. Make plays. Win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Follow trends, we set them. At 2060 Digital, we're not just another agency. We're your strategic partner. We dive deep into your challenges and develop solutions that drive measurable outcomes. Ready to elevate your digital presence with campaigns that connect? Google 2060 Digital today.
ESPN Sports Center.
MU Motors into College Station. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Missouri has won 2 straight entering tonight's clash with Texas A&M as the Tigers continue making their NCAA tournament case. TMA guest Gabe DeArmond believes Mizzou's conference as a whole looks vulnerable.
I think it's a lot more doable than people think. Not a sure thing because this team has obviously been up and down and wildly inconsistent, but you know, you're better than Oklahoma and Mississippi State.
Unpredictability reigned across men's hoop on Tuesday. 3 top 10 schools suffered losses. Illinois among those victims. Wisconsin surged past Brad Underwood's squad 92-90. Women's hockey prelims. Team USA gave Canada no breathing room, blanking that longtime rival 5-0. Dalibor Dvorsky's Slovakian squad topping Finland by the score of 4-1. This Sports Center update was presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
They are St. Louis. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN.
So John Cooper telling Elliot Friedman's partner over on the 32 Thoughts podcast, Kyle Bukauskas, that he has not decided yet on the Game 1 starter. He's going to inform the goaltender later on tonight. Of course, Canada plays tomorrow morning against Czechia, and my expectation is you'll see Jordan Binnington get the first start. I think Kerbs is absolutely correct. These first 2 games, you're going to see Logan Thompson get 1, Jordan Binnington get 1, and then once tournament play starts, they'll actually lean with one guy, and that will be the guy unless he falters. It's no question the amount of pressure on Jordan Binnington going into this tournament, because every single person that writes about hockey has basically wrote an article saying it would be a massive mistake if they start Jordan Binnington in the tournament. This should be no surprise to anybody, T-Bone. I'm on the opposite side of this. I think you start Jordan Binnington, you've got a very short leash on him, and if it goes poorly, you get rid of him. Now, I don't like to praise Dom.
Like send him home
No,
from
not,
Italy?
no, you don't do that. You ain't got no other goaltender
wow, that's
there.
kind of tough.
That was pretty aggressive by me. Yeah. Everyone knows that I dislike Dom Luszczyszyn pretty hard over on The Athletic. I will agree with him in the sense of, this did happen in the Olympics of the past. I forget which year it was, but Curtis Joseph was Team Canada's starting goaltender. He lost, or he had a bad game. They put Marty Brodeur in, and then Marty Brodeur never surrendered that net. That can happen. And if it does, I will sit here and eat crow saying, yep, Jordan Binnington wasn't the guy, and that's fine. I think Jordan Binnington's going to be fine. I think Dom was absolutely wrong in sitting here saying it's like, oh, well, you can't start this guy in net because the big game Binnington narrative, it has not been true over these last couple of years. I mean, sure. Has he won at the biggest stage? I mean, did win 4 nations, but yeah, he lost Game 7 to the Winnipeg Jets.
He was good in that game, by the way.
He was awesome in that game. The Winnipeg Jets game, people hone in on Winnipeg scoring 2 goals in the final 3 minutes. They forget how big he was in the second period of keeping them in the lead of that hockey game. And yeah, he lost the World Championships this past summer to Latvia. It's the World Championships. This is not that same stage. I think Binnington is going to be fine. I think Binnington is probably going to be the guy for them in the elimination games. But look, all of the pressure is on him right now. I mean, this is what makes or breaks the rest of Jordan Binnington's season, because if you falter in the Olympics, this is that moment where people look at you and say, yep, big game Binner, this is what we'd expect from him, and the team is just bad. If you falter, you return to a team that is performing poorly with nothing to hold your hat on in terms of, well, this is the drive that I can pull myself back into it. It's going to be a tough go the rest of the season for Binnington if it goes poorly over in the Olympics.
Yeah, I think he's the player for me that's under the most pressure at the Olympics. I know some people will point at like Austin Matthews and it with USA, Hellebuck with USA.
Yeah.
To be fair with like Hellebuck, like you've talked about this before. You saw this in the playoffs. Yeah. Hellebuck's not a big game performer. So if you want to argue there's pressure on him there.
I think it's the surprising factor if he goes out and performs.
Yeah, but the reason I would say there's this pressure on Jordan Binnington is because everybody knows what you're getting from Binnington in the regular season, right? It's no surprise if his numbers were down. Now, it's a little surprising how far down they are this year. But if Binnington just has a meh regular season, you kind of expect it from Jordan Binnington at this point. It's kind of what he's proven to be. It's just an average to slightly above average goaltender in the regular season. But when he gets to the playoffs, in these big game situations, he becomes a different guy. Well, he's having his worst season of his career. I'm actually worried about him being in between the pipes for Team Canada because I'm not as convinced as he's going to turn it around this time around as he did last year, because he was playing better last year at this point than he was now going into this Olympic break. And if you're Jordan Binnington, it's the thing that you have to hang your hat on. I am the big game performer. Mm-hmm. And in my opinion, it only takes one run of not doing that to lose that.
Yeah.
And if you lose that reputation as Jordan Binnington, we're talking about an average goaltender in the regular season that doesn't have the effect of, well, he performs well when he's in the postseason. Mm-hmm. And it's not like he's got a bad team in front of him now. You can make that argument on the Blues. There's a bad team in front of him. You can't make that argument for Team Canada. And we've gone back and forth at times on this show during this season of how much of that was on Binnington in that game? How much was it on the team in front of him? It's probably a pretty even split. He's going to have to make big saves and be able to steal some momentum for Team Canada at times in this tournament. I think he's under immense pressure. And then add on top of it the legacy effect that's in it for him in this tournament. He's got a chance to go for the Triple Crown, which is he's won a Stanley Cup. He's seeking a gold medal for the Olympics. He got one at 4 Nations, but he's seeking one from the Olympics, and then the World Championships eventually as well, which he might take part in this year for Team Canada as well.
And there are no goaltenders that have won the triple crown. No goalie has ever done that.
It's a legacy, right? Yeah. And he's potentially, we've talked about this before, there's not a NHL Hall of Fame. It is a hockey in general Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. He's potentially a Hall of Famer if he's able to pull that off. Even though he doesn't have great regular season numbers with the Blues.
You're a hockey Hall of Famer.
He might be a hockey Hall of Famer if he's able to capture a gold medal at the Olympics and then potentially at the Worlds.
And see, Joey and Kerbs have talked about this on the broadcast, and I know some may disagree, but I'm not saying he's the same guy. But if you look at Grant Fuhr's numbers, do you know what his career save percentage is?
I also think judging goalies from that era is hard because they didn't have as big a padding and
totally understandable. And like I said,
sucked, if I'm being honest.
I'm not comparing the two. Like Binnington is not Grant Fuhr. Grant Fuhr played freaking 79 games in one season. Nobody's doing that. He had an 887 save percentage. Grant Fuhr was never the guy that was going to lock down a game. Grant Fuhr was the guy that I'll make the final save. That's what we mean by Jordan Binnington. Does he make the final save? And yeah, there's instances that he doesn't make the final save. That's why I hate that narrative that Dom put out there of big game Benner. He's lost big games. Sure, he's lost big games. But does anybody remember that 2021-2022 postseason run? That team was not good. We remember the underlying numbers. Offensively, they were great. Defensively, they were bad. He had a 949 save percentage, and if not injured, would have beaten Colorado.
Yeah, I think the part with Binnington now, though, is he's getting older. And that's where Well, especially when you can look at even just the standard numbers for this year for Binnington, because I'm with you. I think it's a little overblown, the narrative that he hasn't won a big game recently when he was awesome in Four Nations, and he was awesome in the playoff run this past year. Yeah. But now that you see as he gets older, he's put in his worst season, both from the standard numbers and the analytical numbers, and he's being asked to be the guy to go win gold, which is the standard for Team Canada at the Olympics. And he's not even the number one goalie on his team anymore. I know that people will push back and tell me this is a 1A, 1B. This is a 1A right now. Hofer's your guy. Hofer is clearly the number one goaltender here in St. Louis. Binnington, they can't trust to start him right now here in St. Louis. Anytime he starts, it feels like a game they're going to lose. And to have that over you while you go in with the team that's under the most pressure to win gold at this Olympics for how deep it is, for the two generation players they have, Crosby at the back end with McDavid still in his prime, I can see where this narrative is coming from, and it's why I think he is the player under the most pressure at these Olympics.
It's actually really funny. I think there's some pressure on Colton Parayko, too. Nobody's going to talk about it because they have such good defensemen. If Parayko makes a mistake, people are going to be like, why is he in the lineup? I mean, they've got defensemen that probably should be in over him, but you stick with the guy that got you to the Four Nations. Before we break and get to the rewind on the other side, you mentioned Joel Hofer being the main guy. A lot of the trade proposals that fans sent over included the Blues trading for a goaltender. I brought this up to you and BK before. Like, if I'm the Blues, I am going to look at Florida or Detroit and say, can I get one of their 3 goaltenders that they got in the minor leagues and over in playing in Europe? Binnington's only got 1 year after this year. And he's a free agent. And I don't know what's going to happen. My assumption is Joel Hofer's going to be the guy moving forward. You are going to have to find a goaltender via trade deadline or the offseason, in my opinion, to keep the competitiveness moving forward. Because I don't think Zarenko is it. He's had his struggles this season. They claimed this guy, or they signed this Romanov, who's a young Russian defenseman. He hasn't performed very well. I get what Kerb said earlier. If you could just play the veteran backup game, man, that's failed miserably for the Blues recently in terms of Chad Johnson, and why am I blanking on the other guy? Oh, Thomas Greiss.
Yeah.
Like, none of those have worked out. They've been searching. I think one of these assets you have at this deadline, you should be looking for a younger goaltender that can be the 1-2 punch with Joel Hofer. And maybe it's this Löw Härenstam who's played for Sweden in the World Juniors, who was awesome. Typically, goalies are 3 to 5 years away when you draft them. I think I'd be looking for another goaltender if I have the necessary assets to trade for one, whether it's this Trey Augustine or Sebastian Casa. Detroit's got 3 guys in their minor league system. I think you might be able to pry one away.
Yeah, and I'll find it interesting to see if they do try to go that route, because I think I would, rather than go out and pay for the backup. You probably got to pay him, $4 million, if I'm not mistaken, $2 to $4 million, typically somewhere in that range.
Especially with the cap going up.
Yeah, I'd rather just have the cheaper, cost control goaltender that can be the guy that's with Joel Hofer. Now, that is risky, too. Like, we can talk about some of the veterans that have failed for the Blues. We've seen how tough it is for young goaltenders.
It's not easy.
So if there is someone that is out there that is being at least proposed in trade proposals, I'm not opposed to the Blues saying we want that guy to be a part of the return because of what you said. And this isn't even if you trade Binnington. This is more of a play for me. That's for 2.5 years down the line from when Binnington's contract does expire. If he finishes out this contract, then you've got your replacement for him internally that you can bring up and then pair with Joel Hofer. I don't think you're looking at a guy, because I'm not sure they're trading Binnington this year unless he goes off in the Olympics.
Where I'm at, yeah.
Speaking of another thing for pressure, boost up his trade value. I don't know if they're trading him, and if you do that, I don't think you're going to be able to find someone that can just come up immediately, because goaltenders are the one position you really do not want to rush to the NHL.
Yeah, I would. This is why I wouldn't trade him. I'd wait till next deadline before I trade Jordan Binnington, because I need 2 goaltenders that I can trust. Regardless if you trust them now, you hope next season is different. I need 2 goalies that I can play so that I'm not overworking Joel Hofer, and I've got a capable backup and not overpaying for one. I'd keep him, and then next deadline, I'd be focused on, look, if it's a bad season, then you move on from him. I would be finding it. Like, I look at Sebastian Casa, who was a first-round draft pick by the Detroit Red Wings. He's 23 years old. He's 6'7", by the way. Nobody? Tebow was the last one there, Brad.
I got you, kids.
He's got a .928 save percentage right now in the American Hockey League. And you might say, well, why would Detroit trade that guy? Because they drafted another kid in the second round who is at Michigan State right now and has the best save percentage in the history of the school. So they're going to trade one of them, maybe. That's where I would kind of target if I'm the Blues. Tanner Hendrickson, Bradford Bruns. I'm Alex Ferrario. Let's rewind it next year on 101 ESPN.
College basketball is on ESPN. Saturday, Florida and Kentucky tip off at 2. Your home for the NCAA is 101 ESPN. Giving you the picture, the real big St. Louis sports picture. It's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Let's run it back with a daily rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Loom, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
Hey, if you missed anything from our show today, be sure to check it out on the podcast page afterwards. 101ESPN.com is where you go to find it. It's brought to you by the Schaefer Door Company. Bradford and T-Bone do a phenomenal job of putting that thing together so you can isolate the specific topics that we talk about. That's up on YouTube that you can check out there as well at 101ESPN STL. Our studio cams brought to you by the Air Alliance team. And, of course, you can find it on the easy-to-use 101 ESPN app, which is brought to you by Dobbs Tire Tire and Auto Centers. We do have a new episode of the Last Minute Blues podcast. Should be up shortly that you can check out. Donnie JR and I got into. It's actually up on YouTube right now that you can check out. We talked about swapping over the core. We talked about how the roster management is going to work, why they claimed Jack Finley, and did a little Olympic preview. So you can check that out over on our YouTube channel. You can also join me and Michelob Ultra this Saturday, Valentine's Day, from 1:30 to 3:30 at Ballpark Village FanDuel Sports Live. Cheer on Team USA during the Winter Games and get signed up for your chance to win a signed USA men's hockey jersey. Plus, brand ambassadors will be sampling Mich Ultra, giving away other Team USA items, awesome Mich Ultra specials available, and so much more. It's all happening this Saturday from 1:30 to 3:30 with Michelob Ultra and me at FanDuel Sports Live inside Ballpark Village. You can get all the details now at 101ESPN.com. So we'll kind of circle back with everything that we've discussed today, and we'll start with the Cardinals in terms of the position that we're focused in on, because they start spring training tomorrow as pitchers and catchers report. And Timo, we kind of came out on the different side of this one. Yours is on the pitching and mine's more on the left field position.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this pitching battle plays out in spring training, if they go 6 or 5-man rotation. And I think there's only 3 locks for that rotation this time around. I think it's Liberatore, McGreevy, and Dustin May. Outside of that, I think it's a battle between Dobbins, Fitz, if they're healthy enough to go, Palante, and Kyle Lehue they're trying to convert to a starter. And then Quinn Matthews, he's probably not in the conversation, but it's going to be at least interesting to see him in spring training.
Bradford, sorry, go ahead.
No, and I was just going to reassert, basically, Alex, that you feel as if Sajacy seems more earmarked for that spot in left field in any event, whether it's in left or you have somebody maybe like a Nathan Church actually populating that position too. I do think Sajacy is more of a, I hesitate to say cornerstone, but could be vying for more and more ABs, maybe even at third as spring progresses.
On the hoop side of things, Illinois lost last night in overtime. I don't think that matters as much. Yes, it's a loss. Yes, it hurts your Big Ten championship hopes of the number 1 seed, but I still think Illinois is one of the best teams in the country, so they'll be fine. Mizzou, on the other hand, has a massive game tonight, Bradford, taking on Texas A&M on the road.
It's a big one on the road in particular. How do you follow up a really good all-around performance that you saw Saturday, albeit at South Carolina? This is a different ball game. Texas A&M, very good team, 7 wins in league play, 17 victories overall on the season. Who else other than Jaden Stone, Mark Mitchell will step up tonight? Do you see T.O. Barrett with another very good game in the backcourt?
And you also have Olympic hockey action that has begun. Dalibor Dvorsky got the game-winning goal today against Finland. T-Bone lost some money, which is always fun. And also Dvorsky picking up an assist. We'll see if T-Bone bets the line on Sweden and Italy
no chance.
A little bit later. They actually dropped the puck in about 10 minutes. Broberg, of course, for Sweden, but a really cool story. Nick Cirsino is playing for Team Italy, who's a local guy, so kind of a tie for you paisans out there if you're going to pay attention to Team Italy and might see a butt kicking. We'll be back with you tomorrow from 11 to 2. T-Bone Bradford and I will be in for you. We've got the Fast Lane coming up next. By the way, tune in all next week as the morning after will be broadcasting live from Cardinals spring training in Jupiter, Florida. Don't miss TMA live from spring training every day next week. It's brought to you by Healthcare Evolutions. Have a great day. We'll talk tomorrow at BK and Ferrario from 11 to 2 here on 101 ESPN.
Get social with 101 ESPN. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, Blue Sky, and YouTube at 101 ESPN.